Hello, fellas. Good to see everybody. All right, this is an impromptu stream. Uh I'm not here to, well, who knows what I'm here for. We'll find out together. But here's the deal. My biggest thing about this Sweet Baby thing is I just want to make sure, and I think I've tried to be pretty clear on this, but maybe I haven't. There's this, I was on this, oh no, is it called Oh No, It's Alex? Is that, I was on his show once. We don't agree on a lot of things. Seemed semi-fine to me. I don't know. But he posted that thumbnail that's part of this thumbnail, like, oh, he said he was at the gym and he saw my video on Sweet Baby. I don't know which one he thought that he saw. And he said something like, I'll just read it to you so we're all in sync here. I don't want to misrepresent anybody. Alex is straight but obsessed with Bailey J. Oh no, it's Alex, right? Okay, so that's his thing. That's his whatever. He says sorry fellas, I'm doing this seat in my pants, babies. He says, I'm going to have to make a response video to Jaffe. I just rewatched again. I'm losing my mind while working out. Okay. So I reached out and I says, hey, let's talk together. Let's do a stream. Let's talk about it, and I'm not saying he's avoiding me. I don't know what he's doing with his fucking life. It was just earlier today. So maybe he's fucking busy. I'm sure he is. I'm not, calling the guy out or anything. Not that would matter. But I figured, okay, fuck it. I've seen so much on my channel and other people's channels that just are really, in my opinion, misrepresenting. And I don't really mind if we disagree on this. And I don't even mind if we hate each other because we disagree on this. What I mind is people getting my perspective wrong and then taking it out to the internet as they are wont to do and trying to sort of pitch people that this is sort of what Jaffe thinks. So here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to just give you my take on the whole Sweet Baby BlackRock thing. And then after that, I'll turn on the red phone. I'm on StreamYard tonight, so we're going out to Twitter and Twitch, not just YouTube. So if anybody would rather be calling in there, either with their camera or just their voice, totally great. That's fine as well. But let me give you my take first. As for who I voted for, I mean, it's California, right? So hello, Rotten Tanuki. Always good to see you, buddy. Yeah, the video's up, though. You can see it VOD. As for who I voted for, though, I voted, I'm not registered with any party, so I had to sort of jump through some hoops if I want to vote for an independent in the primaries or a Democrat in the primaries. And since it is California and we know Biden's going to win anyway, I didn't bother to care about it. So I voted for Katie Porter for the Senate. That's pretty much all you need to know. There wasn't much on our ballot here in San Diego. So you don't have to be a follower. Tonight, you don't have to be a follower. No, this is members and non-members. I figured I'd open it up to whoever wants to have a conversation because I think it's important that we I would like to make my take clear. I made a video yesterday. I spent all day editing it. I assumed it was clear, but it clearly was not clear. Master Luke, I did. I'll talk to you a little bit about it. I'm going to stay focused on this, though, for now. Okay, so here's my take. All right, so I made a video a month ago called Leave Sweet Baby Alone. And I was just, I'm a very progressive guy. I believe in diversity. I believe the playing field for a number of different marginalized folks is not even yet. I think most people's hearts are in the right place, but I grew up in Alabama, and I'm telling you that just because they say it doesn't mean it's true. It's in how they act. And so I'm very much in the headspace of, hey, let's do what we can to make things more fair. Believe it, don't believe it, whatever. That's fine. So I don't have a problem legally if a company like Sweet Baby Inc. exists. I'll get to them specifically in a moment. I think if you want to hang out a shingle and say, hey, we think diversity is important and we understand that there is a movement right now to get more diversity in the content, we want to be a part of that. Great. You don't have to buy the games. You don't have to support the games, but I think, sure, I'm open to that idea. So I made that video and I was just like, why are you guys being such dicks? You don't have to buy these games. And then people explained to me and I appreciated it. I made a follow-up video. I understood the DEI stuff. Whenever people were talking about the ESG scores and the diversity stuff, I was assuming wrongly that they thought that this was like a legal thing. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they said, no, it's not that. It's companies like Vanguard, companies like BlackRock, basically will not push certain corporations to their investment clients if, for whatever reason, I don't know the motivation behind BlackRock and Vanguard. I was looking at their financials as much as a layperson like me can the other day, and they seem to be doing well. So I don't know if this is bearing them or not, but for whatever reason, they want to push that agenda and they don't want to promote companies that don't promote diversity. Okay, they have that right. Welcome to America. Agree, don't agree. Don't put your investments in that's fine. I support that. If you don't like it, don't give them your money. But I made a follow up and I said, I don't like what BlackRock's doing as much as I am progressive and believe in those causes. I don't like the way they're going about pushing their, in their case, their agenda. I just doesn't see it. It's unsavory for whatever reason. I'm not a fan, but I certainly support, their perspective, just not how they're going about getting it into people's entertainment. Okay. And I made a video and I said, hey, I was wrong. Thank you for educating me, blah, blah, blah. I still, all the stuff I just said to you, made a video. Okay. And that was it. And then the first video, I was just getting hammered in the comments with people. And I was just like, okay, I need to make another fucking video because I've explained this, right? It's like, we don't have to agree, but I don't have a right to my opinion on this, right? So I made a video yesterday, and I was basically just saying, look, even in the video, I said, I don't support BlackRock and how they're doing it, like I just told you. And also what has come to light, and I reached out to somebody at Sweet Baby Inc., and they're like, yeah, we're not interested in having a conversation with you online. I said, okay, that's fine. But I understand that there have been some emails some emails and some tweets from the past. Some of them are really old, but some are not. The CEO or the co-CEO of the company has quite probably said some things or emailed some things that make her look like kind of an asshole. And I also heard that there was a curator on Steam who was like, hey, I'm going to just identify games that Sweet Baby has worked on. And then I'm hearing that Sweet Baby has kind of gone after them and tried to take them down, blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't know if all of that or any of that is true, but let's, for the sake of argument, it wouldn't surprise me if it's true. And so for the sake of where we're at tonight, let's assume that's true. Okay, well, I don't support that. I mean, certainly they have a right if they're doing something illegal, like if the Steam curator is attributing certain things to them that they didn't do. Yeah, okay, that's a problem. But it's not a problem to be able to let people know who don't like their shit. Although, frankly, you're kind of going after the wrong target. You should, don't blame Sweet Baby. They're just trying to make a fucking living, even if you totally disagree with them. Blame the companies that hire them. If Sony really, did hire them and you have a problem with them, then don't go after Sweet Baby. Go after fucking Sony. Not go after, but they pull your money, pull your support. Regardless, so let's assume for the sake of this conversation, they did all the stuff they're being accused of doing. Okay. So in my video, all I am saying, my video wasn't even about Sweet Baby. It wasn't even about my new one. It wasn't even about BlackRock, other than saying I don't agree with how they're doing it. It was me saying, and I'm not going to get into that. I mean, I will if you want to, because it's detailed. But I was talking about forced diversity versus bad writing, and the lack of nuance in discussing one of those being very different than the other, and how historically this has been a problem, not in terms of diversity, but in terms of notes from studios and corporations affecting the creative product since the beginning of commerce and art coming together and making business entertainment, show business, right? That's what the video was about, and saying that if you are a if you have a problem with forced diversity, you either have a problem with bad writing, which is what I think most people have a problem with, or you're just, a homophobic racist, because it's one or the other. And I lay out how I feel that logic works out. And that was it. Okay, so all these people who are coming at me now and acting as if I am supporting Sweet Baby Inc., I'm supporting their right to exist. Welcome to America. So should you. I also support the Klan's right to exist, even though I despise them. That's what it means to live in a fucking free society, okay? But yeah, that's where I'm at with it. That's where I'm at with it. Loop73 in the chat says it was too forced in Spider-Man 2. Great. Then you are in a position to no longer want to support Insomniac's games. There's no problem with that. That's how it's supposed to work. I didn't feel that it was forced, but then again, I live in a very progressive liberal part of the world, and I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. The one thing that I do find that I really do want to push back on as well is, unless you guys have some evidence, you tell me this in the chat. But I'm seeing it right now from Wake Up. How would you feel if Sweet Baby forced you to do some stupid shit? Where are you guys getting this evidence that when I see people write about this, it's like they think that Sweet Baby Inc. is some kind of legal authority that they can come in like some kind of, Supreme Court saying that's not constitutional. They're a bunch of fucking kids. I don't mean to act like they're, to belittle them, but it's not like they're like industry vets or anything. And like I said, they've hung out a shingle, and companies, because it sounds like, want to get a good DEI score, what have you, have said, let's hire these guys. They don't have any. You think Cory Barlog, the creative director working with Eric Williams on God of War Ragnarok, is like, Eric, man, I'd love to basically be Cory Barlog and give you my talent and my advice. And Eric's like, I'd like to do the same thing, but that Sweet Baby, come on. You really think that's happening? Come on. There's no, unless you have evidence of that. I would love to see it. I'm not saying you're lying, but you can't just throw that accusation out there to a studio like Sony Santa Monica with that. Look, I've made videos that I've gotten hate for where I've been like, I don't like the direction of Kratos. That's not coming from Sweet Baby. That's coming from Cory Barlog having a goddamn child and then basically going, hey, here's a cool, interesting way we can revamp the series. And millions of people loved it. And I loved the first one. I didn't love Ragnarok. But where's the evidence of Sweet Baby Inc. having any control? It's ridiculous. Now, the one thing I will say that I would love to see, and I would believe this if you showed me, I'm just saying I haven't seen it, is I know there are companies that are on that list of like, hey, if you don't get your DEI score up, we're not going to recommend you. Okay, I get that's a true thing. But is Sony a Japanese corporation? I know they are traded publicly here in America, I believe, but are they also on that list? Have we been presented with any kind of evidence to say that Sony is worried about their DEI, ESG score, whatever you call it, because they want to make sure they're getting investments? Because people are also just making that assumption. And I'm not suggesting it's not true. I'm saying I don't have that evidence. And could you perhaps share it? Gamer with an Opinion says, if we are speculating, every game they touch seems to have indicators. That may be accurate. Although if you look at the games on their websites, look, I don't even get the Suicide Squad hate. I get that a lot of you don't like the game. I happen to like the game. What the fuck was progressive about the Suicide Squad? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just like, did I miss it? Is it so normalized to me that I'm like, what are you people talking about? It was Harley Quinn and the shark and the boomerang guy and what? I don't know. I mean, maybe it's true though. King Shark is gay, says Cheeseworks. Is he? I didn't get that in the game. I never had any. He's a shark, but more importantly, what? How do you know he's a gay shark? Sony has put a bunch of white dudes in charge. Yes, David, they are worried about DEI. I think you're being sarcastic. I would assume you are. It doesn't matter though. See, Embers Arcade says the CEO herself has expressed an intent to to inject her political worldview into the games. Great. She has that right. She absolutely has that right to say that's what I want my career to be about. So what? You think Corey's like, I really wish that I didn't even get this far in the game because I got bored, but you think the girl in Ragnarok that was a black girl that Atreus liked, and people are like, she shouldn't be black and whatever. You think Corey's was fighting with Scott Rhodey and Herman Hulse going, that is not our fucking vision. He's like, nope, Sweet Baby said, put this in. Come on, man. Maybe it's because I know Corey and I know that team and I know that studio pretty well. That's not happening. I still says Jaffe, she has that right, but people have the right to dislike her and her output. Absolutely they do. But what people don't have the right to do, I mean, they have the right, but they're morons, is to be so one note that they can't look at someone like me that supports their right to push their agenda, just like I support your right to push your agenda. But that doesn't mean I support her or what they're doing. I don't understand, and maybe I just needed to explain to me. I'm going to turn on the red phone right now. And you let me know. Maybe I just don't understand something, and you guys understand it better than me, and you can explain it. But I'm like, you don't have to buy their fucking games, man. Okay, but it doesn't even matter. Slow Mercy says it's like putting a white guy in an ancient African myth. I understand you don't like it. That is not the point. You have a right not to like it. But if you're saying you don't like it because it is poor writing and it pulls you out of the story because it's poorly written, right? Then I'm like, yeah, okay. But if you're saying you don't like it because it's diverse and they're forcing diversity, well, they force shit in media all the time. You think I wanted to release Twisted Metal Black in Europe without the cutscenes? Wasn't my choice. Wasn't my fucking choice. Captain Crunch says she's weaponized her blue hair mob if devs don't hire them. No, she hasn't. What does that even mean? Do you think, I mean, seriously, you think a guy who gets paid what the Sony Santa Monica motherfucking people get paid are going to just acquiesce because some lady that has zero power? I'm not talking BlackRock. I'm talking the CEO of fucking Sweet Baby. You think Sony's like, we have to hit this DEI score, fellas, and we don't know nothing about diversity. What are we going to do? Oh, thank God. Sweet Baby's here. You think there's no competition in that space? You think their own people couldn't check with BlackRock and go, look, here's what Herman says we have to do. They could do it. You guys are giving these, and that's almost more offensive to me. As a creative guy and a one-time video game creator, you guys are giving this little penny ante nothing company all you're building them up with all this importance and power, and it's like they're nothing. They're a little fucking nothing. I'm not saying they're good or bad. I'm not casting stones on them as a company. Although, if what they have been accused of is accurate, that's a problem. But in terms of like, you guys have given them way more influence. Go after BlackRock, right? I don't have to watch the GDC talk. I don't care if she stood up there on a stage and she said, and I know she did, at least people told me she did, anybody that doesn't follow our view, we have to go after these companies. She has a right to say that. But if these companies, they're just not capable of finding anyone else? Oh, we better fucking do what Sweet Baby says. These are billion-dollar corporations. It's just like you guys are giving them too much power. Now, BlackRock has a lot of power. Yeah. And that's an interesting conversation to have. I'm curious why BlackRock, is it just the CEO here's what I'll say. I'll get to the super chats and the members chats. I appreciate it in just a second. Then I'll turn on the red phone here. If these guys are, being led by some dogmatic group of leaders, and then they are forcing companies to be a certain way, but they're still making a shit ton of money for their investors. The investors don't care. Clearly the investors support it or don't not support it enough to keep giving them their money. But if you want to go after somebody, metaphorically, go after them. Go after Sony. Go after Microsoft. If she has a right to say it, says sarcastic, people have the right to make drama. I'm not saying they don't have the right. I'm saying when you drag me into this bullshit and you try to paint me as one of these Sweet Baby Inc. supporters just because I defend their right to do something you don't like, that's when I have a problem. I don't give a fuck if you want to make drama about it. And it's not go woke, go broke thrill killer. Spider-Man 2 has sold fucking buckets of content. I'm sorry, but it's but I respect the fact that you don't like it. All right, let me get these super chats real quick. And then I will go to the red phone, which is basically you can call in and give me your take on things. If that's your cup of tea. It's not your cup of tea, not a problem, pal. I appreciate you being here anyway. Don't be shy. This is coming from Rocker Matt's been a member for 20 months. Thank you, buddy. He says, hello, Jaffe, also, and so glad to continue to support you and your awesome content. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Have you spoken about the cancellation of the Twisted Metal game? Do you have any inside info? You mean Twisted Metal? Oh, the new one. I have no information. I know it was in development. I know they were making it, and now they're not. I have a couple of inside sources I am speaking with, but they are understandably right now hesitant to go into details. And I've told them, hey, if or when you are ready to share some stuff that you feel comfortable sharing, I'm here. But that's all I know right now. Goat says, are you scared about what Alex is going to say? No, I'm fucking 52 years old. I've got 2 adult children. I've co-run 2 companies. And I'm hoping the Ozempic doesn't kill me. What the fuck do I care what some fucking internet guy says about me? Are you scared about what Alex is going to say about you? Everyone is freaking out and worried, and we hope you're, oh, shut up, man. You know you're fucking with me. There's no way in God's green earth, Goat Gaming, that anybody gives a shit. I don't know those guys that well. I don't give a fuck. They can say what they want. Eddie T, hey buddy, he says, I think a big part of it's due to how Anita Sarkeesian damaged the business, and now people don't want to see it happen. She didn't damage the business. What business? How, Eddie? She may be influenced. Let's just call it. Let's just assume, with the evidence we have, that she heavily influenced Neil Druckmann. Okay. Because I know he said some things. So let's say that Neil Druckmann is such a fucking milquetoast, lightweight creative, which I don't think is the case. Let's say that he is, though. And let's say the man is not capable of thinking for himself. And here comes Anita Sarkeesian. Thank God she showed up. Because this fucking Israeli soldier, Neil Druckmann, who'd worked on games long before she got involved with Amy Hennig, suddenly he's like, thank fucking God, I got a North Star and her name is Anita Sarkeesian. Come the fuck on. But let's assume you're right. Okay. So she influenced Neil Druckmann. Well, clearly his shit sold to people enough that they made a lot of money and everything was good. Well, Neil influenced Corey. Let's say that. I'm not saying it's true, but people say God of War is like, the Last of Us, but it's Kratos, blah, blah, blah. Let's assume that's true. Great. Corey was following the money and his creative muse. It's not like Anita started. You guys why do you want to give these people the power that these creatives have fought and worked and politicked their whole careers to get to? You think maybe it's because a lot of people online are like, Jaffe, let me give you this idea for a game. I don't want your ideas. Corey and Neil don't not only want your ideas, they don't want to, they're not going, someone save me with your progressive agenda or your conservative agenda. That's what they fought for, to be in those captain's chairs. It doesn't mean they don't have to deal with demands from on high, but Sweet Baby and Anita Sarkeesian are not on high. What is it, dog? My dog is crazy. That's what I would say, Eddie T. But again, if you guys have evidence to the contrary, please provide it. I would love to see it. Massachusetts, thank you, buddy. He says the Patriots were right. There's just too much information out there and people don't know how to act or what to do with it. It needs to be controlled. I mean, that's a bigger conversation. I do not think that human beings are designed to handle right now the kind of freedom that we have in this country. But I don't have a better idea, but I think you're right, especially with the internet. But what are you going to do? Who are you going to elect to control it? Thank you for the super chat, Masochist. I appreciate it. And thank you for all your support. Okay. I'm going to turn on the, let me turn on the what's that goddamn thing called? The phone. Here we go. Now, listen, I'm going to give you a little hint here. If somebody is talking on the goddamn cockadoodie phone, please don't call, because it's just me here. And what that means is I won't be able to answer it and it'll go to voicemail. But when you hear there's a little break, if there is, I'm sure there will be, give a call. Red phone 619-786-3431 is the number all the kids are using. I think it's a good number. I got it for my birthday. In the chat, I'll go to first while we're waiting. Eric Prime says, hey. Luke says, well, the U.S. could be like it's in Canada, where our prime minister wants to put people in jail for hate speech. I'm opposed to that. I'm totally opposed. If that's a true thing, and I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just saying there's a lot of accusations flying. I would suggest to you that, yeah, that's bullshit. And that would certainly never fly in America. And I would fight for it not to fly in America. That's horrible. And what I'll tell you is I remember the whole Jordan Peterson thing was going on, and people were like, it's illegal to use the wrong pronouns. But then when you really kind of looked into it, it was like, well, at a state level, when you're writing documentation, you're not allowed for that job to misgender people. But it wasn't like they could pull you off the street in Canada if you said, if you misgendered somebody. But that became the narrative. Scott says, Sweet Baby Inc. should be proud of their work. I don't know why they're acting the way they are with the spotlight finally on. Right. Settle the fuck down over there. Just chill the fuck out. Do your work. If people like it, they'll buy it. If they don't, you'll go out of business. Happened to me. I can live with it. You can too. As an American, the speech laws in Canada are insane, says Movie Maniac. Depending on what they actually are, I've heard some things. If they're true, sure. Master Luke, I am fucking doing a show about something right now. Oh, you're laughing out loud, you son of a bitch. Come on, man. I'm on a hair trigger. Whatever that means. That's what cool dudes say. I think that means, I don't know what it means. The best Sweet Baby is Sweet Baby Ray's honey barbecue sauce. Let me ask you that though. See, but Loops, this is the problem with people, right? You just want to be a dick. And then at that point, people's job is to either ignore you or push back. He says, misgender, there's only two. The rest are make-believe. Again, what do you think? What do you think, man? You think I have a trans kid and it's just like my son's a fucking moron who doesn't understand the reality of the situation, or his parents? It's like, you guys, and I think the left does it too, but you guys are so quick to just devour these talking points from these folks. It's like, whether or not, I can cite you scientific shit and you can cite me scientific shit. Let's get to the core of it. My son was miserable, and we did 2 years of therapy. Trans specialist, general specialist. We went to general practitioners. We were very practical about it, and so was he. And end of the day, we made with him and his doctors a decision for our family. Now, if you're really into freedom, shut the fuck up, because no one's forcing anything on you. This is what we chose to do after spending a great deal of time and energy and love with our family, going, what is best for our family? Would you want me to come into your life and tell you what is best? I don't care if you think or don't what's real and what's not, but do you have such little respect for other people that you feel that just because you don't agree with the choices they make, they're simply, what an asshole. You realize you're an asshole. If, I got a guy in the chat, Mastidope. Well, we hope you're all happy. Jesus, now I see the way you are. Yeah, but that's not because I'm this way because of that. I've always been this way. I don't want to tell people how to live their fucking lives. Why do you want to? It's bizarre to me. It's like, don't you have anything better to do? And fuck you, Shinja. I've never hated PlayStation. I have hated some of their decisions. I think that's probably true. You don't. I understand. No, the government doesn't either. He says he doesn't have anything better to do, but the government does. What is the government doing? What is the government? Sweet Baby Inc. says RP Andy wants to lecture us. So don't buy their shit. I mean, how is Nodog says, yeah, but Sweet Baby wants to tell people what gender or race you are in a game. So don't buy their shit. What do you want? You want the whole world to lay down at your feet and be exactly, it's going to voicemail. I'm sorry. Hang on. My bad. I'll fix it right now. Okay. It should work now. Leave people alone. I'm a really good fucking dad. My ex-wife's a really good fucking mom. We have a really good, caring, loving family. I'm supposed to fucking roll over, jerk off on the. How you get your own house in order? I don't understand. How do you not support that? Hey, it's Jaffe. What's up? Oh shit, man. Come on. Not tonight, man. I don't have time for the. Because you're gonna do the comedy shit, and everybody knows your position. I want to get new people in. Unless you got something fresh to say. Do you have something new to say? I don't have time for a whole bunch. Go. Tell me go to your. Oh wait, you guys can't hear Pete Turtle? Hang on, they can't hear you. 1 sec, Pete Turtle. Let me get you on. Let me figure out because I'm doing it through this StreamYard. Here's how we're gonna do it, Pete Turtle. I'm going to hang up. I'm going to kill the red phone, but I'm going to put a link up. If anybody wants to call in, they can call in there, and they don't have to be there. They don't have to show their face. I know a lot of people are shy about that, but I can't. I don't want to do troubleshooting tonight. All right. Well, we'd love to see it. We've never seen it. I'll talk to you in a second. All right. Red phone is now dead. I apologize for that, but what we will now do is I will put a link up, and if you guys want to come on, again, you can show your face, you cannot show your face, don't matter to me, but if you want to offer your opinion, this is going to be the fastest way for us to do it this evening, and I appreciate you putting up with that. Okay, so here we go. Invite, I'm just going to put it out there, do with it what you will. I don't really give a fuck. I'll just delete the stream if you call in with your fucking cock out. Not that anybody wants to fucking see that. All right, there you go. It is on the StreamYard.com. Just click it, and I'll see you, and I'll bring you in. Yeah, the voices are in the wall, says Angel. Just by Jaffe's reaction, we all know it was him. It was me doing what? But let me ask you guys something. Even if you guys are the conservative folks who happen to be watching this thing at the moment, don't you agree? Wasn't that always the whole point of your conservative party, is you want government to get out of your fucking business? Why do you have to tell me how to live my life? I certainly don't tell. I said at the top of the chat, I said, hey man, I think the Klan, or I don't know, whoever, I think the Nazis are awful, but I support their right to exist until they break the law or they do something that incites violence. Why is this hard? I'm not coming for your kids. Trust me, I got my hands full. I don't want your fucking kids. I'm dealing with my own family. All right, here we go. Add to stage. This is Ember's Arcade. Ember, it's Jaffe.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
I can. Can you guys hear Ember?
Let me know.
Okay, 1 sec. Can you guys give me P Turtle's not on right now, but Ember's Arcade is on. Can you guys hear him? Say, do a thing.
Check,
do a
check. Hello.
Okay, you got to speak a little louder. I don't have control of your mic, but talk a little louder. What do you want to say, Ember's Arcade?
Well, there's been a lot of conversation about Sweet Baby and whether they have a right to do this or whether they don't have a right, or where people have a right to dislike or not like. And I think that that's kind of circles, and we're not really going to get anywhere. I think that the frustration that people have is that people are seeing a concerted effort by a particular political affiliation that wants to radically change and control culture and speech and thought and assumption, reality to some extent. And it's not innocent, and it's a component of a much broader thing. It's not just video games, it's academia, it's mainstream media, it's entertainment, it's government. And it has to do with what we're seeing with Sweet Baby, which is that It's a political affiliation that's inspired by racial in-group preference and these things that we were told, that especially as children. You know, you're older than I am by about 20 years, I think. But even when I was a kid, I remember that many of the things that they're saying are moral virtues now are not, or were not, moral virtues when I was young and being taught about racism. Everything has flipped in reverse, and they expect you to. Sorry, go ahead.
What's an example of something you were taught was moral and now you're being told it's not?
Well, I was taught specifically that any kind of mistreatment or treatment or assumption at all about a person's character based on the color of their skin was racism. And that was, everyone in the chat can agree with me. And I know that you've heard this too. This isn't some conspiracy theory. That's exactly what they've said. And now that is absolutely not the case. Now the moral virtue is,
what do you think the case is now?
Well, now the moral virtue is to fight in the interests of your particular in-group, as long as your in-group is marginalized. In-group preference is totally accepted, as long as you're not white, which I understand where that's coming from. The idea is, the assumption is that everything has been imbalanced. There's total inequity in society, and in order to achieve that equity, there has to be some in-group preference and in-group behavior preferentially to the people who weren't enjoying those benefits. I don't think that reflects reality. And I don't think that we were allowed to mitigate.
Hang on a sec. So I just want to be clear. You're saying that, and I would like to go back when we have a second to the definition of racism, but you're saying that the people who are going, the playing field is not equal for folks who come from certain backgrounds or certain races or certain whatever.
No. That's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm trying to frame something here. All I'm saying is that there is a particular political worldview that was not litigated by society as a whole. And typically, new ideas are litigated based on their merit by society throughout all of history. That shapes culture. Of course, cultures change, new words change, gender changes. I mean, you can look at certain societies in Indonesia where they have 5 genders. One of them is a genderless shaman. I mean, these are things that happen and that cultures can dictate for themselves.
That's my class in Baldur's Gate, by the way. But anyway, keep going.
Right? Yeah. There's a gender. Look up the Bugis people in Indonesia if you want interesting reading. They're very interesting. They have 5 genders. Society. Anyone can define these things as they wish.
What are you saying needed to have been litigated with society before it did what? What is the thing you're talking about?
What I'm saying is that Sweet Baby Inc. represents a particular political affiliation that is not just in games, but this is a component of it, which has set a moral imperative about their perception of reality over all other perceptions of reality, and has not taken the time to litigate their ideas in the marketplace of ideas. It doesn't matter whether or not they're ideas. No, absolutely not.
I agree with everything you've said. I agree with everything you've said up until they have not taken the time to litigate their ideas in the marketplace of ideas, because
they totally haven't.
Well, okay, well, let me speak to that briefly. There's 2 reasons I think you're wrong on that. The first one is that, again, these are people who are not in power. This is not Sony. This is not even BlackRock. These are some consultants. I've hired consultants before, and yes, they have opinions, but they've never been able to tell us what to do. And unless you want to provide evidence that Sweet Baby has the keys to the kingdom, I don't know why anything has changed. But the second part is that if their ideas do not survive, and they may not, and maybe they shouldn't, and that's fine, the marketplace of ideas, guess what will happen? They'll go out of business.
Right.
Isn't that exactly what you're saying you want? No
one is this.
Well, yeah, but you're saying they haven't.
I haven't. Here's what I'm saying when I say that they haven't litigated their ideas. The evidence here, we can point to Colin Moriarty, who I know that you're familiar with.
He's a friend of mine. I like him very much.
Well, I'll tell you how they litigate their ideas. They do it through humiliation, destruction, and reputation destruction. That's how they litigate it. Well, look at Colin Moriarty.
Colin Moriarty has almost 20,000 Patreon members. The lowest tier you can spend is $5 a month.
No, so I totally understand that he's successful.
The guy is fucking flying.
The power they have that people like organizations like Sweet Baby have is not institutional, it's not corporate, it's not legal. It is a false morality that they can leverage through public humiliation, through reputation destruction.
But you're only
all you have to do is look at reality. Look at how they treated
Colin. Give me an example. Wait a minute. Let's take Colin then. So Colin's shit went down well before Sweet Baby Inc. had even incorporated in Delaware or wherever the fuck they were gonna incorporate. So if you really want to have this discussion, Colin has nothing to do with Sweet Baby Inc. and vice versa. They've never crossed paths.
Well, because Sweet Baby Inc.'s existence is a symptom as well as what happened to Colin Moriarty. And I only bring up Colin because you know him. He's a direct example of what I'm saying.
Give me an example that you know then. Forget if I know him. You give me an example that you know.
Well, I don't know any celebrities that have been canceled.
I don't know any celebrities. Tell me about your mom. Tell me. So, clearly, you must know.
I'll tell you about myself. I'll tell you exactly about myself. I've lost friends because of this exact attitude. I had a wonderful friend in college who I disagreed with about free speech during the riots or the demonstrations of the alt-right in 2016. Not George Floyd, before that. Charleston? I forget.
It was Charleston, the Nazis, and they will not replace this thing. Yeah.
Yes. And I said to her, she thought that they should be arrested, that speech should be banned. I disagreed. I thought it was a healthy
disagree
discussion.
too.
She never spoke to me again.
Okay, well, she doesn't like you.
No, she did like me. This was,
but now she doesn't because you've revealed a side of you that she doesn't respect. But that's not that's tough shit. I mean, that's life, man.
But what we're saying is, as I'm arguing with you here, is that the thing that she subscribed to, the worldview she subscribed to, that she could not perceive a person disagreeing with her as anything more than evil because they were not adhering to her political and moral imperative, which is all.
Well, she sounds like a fucking idiot. Why do you want to be friends with an idiot?
That's what Sweet Baby is. That's what everything that is like Sweet Baby is. So I bring up Sweet Baby and Colin and all these things because Sweet Baby Inc. is a symptom of a larger problem, not just the problem.
Are Nazis walking around Charleston, but they have a right to do it until they break the law. All I'm saying is you have a right to
sit here. Sure, we could sit here and talk about the people that have a right to do things, but that doesn't say anything. We just go in circles over and over again about everyone has the right. Everyone has the right to do these things, of course.
But well, here's what I would like, sir. I would like if people could actually have a little shade of gray every now and then, at least when it comes to me. I would like people to say, you know what? Jaffe defends Sweet Baby Inc.'s right to exist, just like he defends the Nazis' right to exist. He doesn't like necessarily either one of them. I happen to agree more with certain diversity ideas Sweet Baby has, and I think the Nazis can go fucking kick rocks and slit their throats, and I'd help them every step of the way. But that said, until they break the law. So what I'm saying is agreeing that something has the right to exist in America, which is kind of the point, is not the same thing as supporting the agenda or the beliefs at 100% or even 1% of that group you're saying has a right to exist. And it's like people can't get that.
And all I'm saying, and I say this with all due respect, I love having these conversations with you, Jaffe. I really
I appreciate you calling.
All I'm saying is that defending their right to exist is saying nothing, because that's a non-starter. It's like when people say freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. Sure, you've said nothing. You've added nothing to the conversation. Sure, they absolutely have a right to exist. Done. Conversation over. We can talk about something a little bit deeper than that. And I think that what is more interesting than that is the fact that this. Go ahead.
But you have not offered any evidence. You've not offered any evidence other than this anecdotal story of your girlfriend that doesn't like you anymore.
Not my girlfriend. Or
you don't like
not
her?
My girlfriend. A friend.
Whatever. Yeah.
But okay, Colin. But we can go back to Colin. That's your anecdotal. That's an anecdotal experience in your life.
But I'm telling you, I don't have that experience with Colin and Sweet Baby. But let's pretend we did, though. Let's pretend Sweet Baby.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, all I'm saying is that it's not just about Sweet Baby. Sweet Baby was bred in thought.
Wait, you cut out. You cut out. Stop. You cut out. You said Sweet Baby was what?
Sweet Baby was bred in the same school of thought that produced the same people that came after Colin and that have come after other people of his like, who might speak out of turn enough that they could destroy their careers or their publicly humiliate them until they can be ousted from whatever social circles they're a part of. That is the tactic. That's what I mean when I say that we haven't litigated these ideas, that people come up and talk about representation and what it means, how important it is, but we don't talk about.
So are you suggesting there should be ideas but are you suggesting then that there should be ideas in America that have been, quote, I'm only putting in quotes because it's how you define litigation, that these ideas should, if they have been litigated by your standard, then it's okay to go after people if they disagree with them publicly. Is that what you're saying?
No. Not by my standard, by any standard.
Been litigated.
by any standard.
But why does it matter if the ideas are litigated? If they have a right to exist, which I know you're saying is reductive, but if they have a right to exist, then they have a right to express ideas that haven't been litigated by definition, correct?
Well, sure, but the ideas have to be litigated because we should care about the truth to some extent. And I mean, that's also a bit of a non-starter.
What idea have they pushed? What idea have they pushed that you don't believe is true?
Okay, so let me give him specifically from the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc. We're talking specifically about this, is that she was discussing about how wonderful it felt to see her character in Mass Effect interacting with another Black character exclusively on screen, and how that was a powerful thing, how she showed all her friends, and that's great. Representation matters.
Okay.
Had a discussion about what that means, about the utility of any group preference in the United States.
I'm sorry. Hang on. I'm so sorry. Listen. I know we can't hear you anymore. It's like you're going through a tunnel. Can you call? I'm going to get some other calls. Can you call back? Because you're going into robot mode. Yeah, call back. I'm going to get a few more calls, but please, I want to pick up right where we left off. I want to get examples of what it is that they have said that you find, should not be out there in the zeitgeist or need to be pushed back on. All right. Thank you, buddy. Call back. Amber. All right. There we go. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what was going on with that. Let's bring in Kirk Gray. I know this guy. And then we'll bring in Kenny. Hello, pal. Man. How you doing?
What's happening?
Well, just talking.
Yeah.
This guy in the chat says there's videos of Sweet Baby. I don't care. Cyrus says, why is it okay for them to be racist? Because it is. Because in America, you get to be racist. It's okay.
I do understand
I don't like it, but
I do understand like what the previous gentleman was saying about how it can be reductive to say they have a right to do it. Like it basically doesn't offer anything to the conversation, I guess, in that. So the conversation it seems like they want to have, because I think you know where I stand on this. My co-host Ginger Prime was absolutely raking me over the coals on this yesterday, because I had the audacity to say that I think this controversy is dumb and it's a non-factor and it's a non-issue, and that apparently means that I support censorship and harassment, I guess. And the nuance is getting lost, which you spoke to in your last video, so I don't want to retread that, but essentially, I think the conversation that these people want to have is only the issues that they prioritize. So they're prioritizing the censorship. They don't want censorship.
Nobody wants censorship.
They're prioritizing they don't want their definition of censorship, if that makes sense. I think
how would you define their definition of censorship?
The Sweet Baby personnel coming out and saying, we don't want a page or a campaign out there that identifies and targets us for the games that we work on, which I think is self-preservation to an excessive extent. If you want to call it censorship, sure, I guess.
Do you know if, let's assume that actually happened, which I think it probably did.
It did happen.
Okay, but did it happen because they were saying they were being mischaracterized, or because they just didn't like when someone was pointing out to them what they had done and they were just, it's just the facts?
I think they felt they were being targeted specifically for the type of message that they're promoting, which the gentleman that just called in is characterizing as bad for America, basically.
Okay, so I would say, for whatever it's worth, and I'm curious what you think about it, but for my take on it is they were being characterized that way, and that's okay. If you lay down in the bed, it's a wrong metaphor, but you got to make amends with the choices you make, and there are people who aren't going to like what you do, Sweet Baby Inc., but they have a right to call you out on it.
Yeah, and so I think there's this perception that because the executive who's Chris Kindred on Twitter, I'm not sure if that's like their actual name, and I'm not sure what their actual position is, but it seems like they're very high up. They have some sort of managing role. Their reaction was to say, report this person or report this page. So it's basically censorship. It's basically cancellation. And I think with the last gentleman that called in, bringing up Colin Moriarty,
wait a minute, just because somebody says report this page, it's suddenly Gabe Newell's going to be like, take it down. Somebody wanted
like, I don't know if that's like censoring them. So that's why I said, what is your definition of censoring then? And I guess reporting them is basically like saying that they don't have a right to have that page for that.
Right, and
pitch to
let's
exist.
assume for the moment that Gabe Newell and the fine folks over at Steam
Jumped in
say
and got him, yeah,
and say, okay, let's get rid of the guy who's going after Sweet Baby. Okay, well, Gabe has that
it's their
right.
platform, yeah.
And then you know what?
Free
Don't buy
speech
your
is
shit
provided
off.
by the American government,
Yeah,
not private entities.
That's right. Don't buy your shit from Steam.
At the
What's
end
the
of the
problem?
day, it's people that don't like the messaging. Like they don't like, the being force-fed narratives about that, trans bisexual people are normal. And it's like, don't put that in my video games. I feel like that's what it is.
Yeah, I think you're right, but they're not your video games.
Right.
You shouldn't.
I mean, they
buy
certainly
them.
aren't if they have that in it, and you don't want to play it if it has that in it.
Just like I don't fucking watch Alex Jones for the most part.
Yeah,
because
and I think he's not
my kind of commentary.
People have this idea of ownership. Like Peter Parker is a perfect example. Like I saw somebody on Twitter say that they hated how Peter Parker basically got treated like an afterthought after Miles Morales became Spider-Man in the comics because of the bond and the sentiment and the affinity that they had for that character, like growing up. And I was like, do you not realize that you just proved the point? Like there's some little minority kid out there that is forming that bond with Miles Morales right now because of the change that they did.
But Peter Parker hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah, but let's say for the sake of argument that he's secondary now. Let's
to what? His own comic? There's a Miles Morales comic, and there's a fucking Peter Parker comic.
Let's go down that path.
Okay, but it's a lie. Let's go down the path, but assume it's a lie because I literally have here. Check it out. Don't fucking come at me about comic books, motherfucker. I mean, I got comic books. I got them coming out my butthole. Look at this one. Look at this goddamn thing I got. I got the goddamn first issue. I didn't even know I had this. It was just like sitting in a basket in the bathroom.
But I think people think that just because they interact with a medium or with a character or with an IP.
Look at that. Infinity Gauntlet #1.
Nice.
You want to buy a fucking house? Buy that issue.
That's a Snap variant.
You got
a Thanos Snap variant, that cover.
A Thanos Snap variant. What do you know? This brand new. This isn't from the movie. This is from the 80s.
No. That is a Marvel Snap Thanos variant. That
in the game. Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is this idea, I still read Spider-Man religiously. I know what's happening in gang war, motherfuckers. Trust me, that's the art that's going on right now. Peter Parker is front and center. You know who the best goddamn new superhero in Marvel is? Is Mary fucking Jane. She's a character named Jackpot. And basically, every time her powers kick in, she has no fucking clue what they're going to be.
Sweet Baby made her face look bad, or like what? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Sweet Baby didn't do shit, but let's assume Sweet Baby came into. I'm going to shut up and let you talk. I'm sorry, but I got to say this.
No. It's your live.
No, but I mean, let's assume Sweet Baby came into Insomniac and said, "We want Mary Jane to be uglier."
Ugly.
Okay, and let's say Ted Price said, "Done." Who's at fault? Sweet Baby Inc. or Ted Price? You know how many fucking fans tell Insomniac and all other developers how to do their shit every day? It's the job of the developers to listen and not. That's all I'll say on that one. Continue. I'm sorry, but it drives me nuts when people give these people power that they don't have.
Two things I want to cover is that I think that people, if they interact with a certain IP enough and they build a certain amount of affinity or sentiment to it, if they even invest in it, let's say they go to all the movies or they read all the comics or whatever it is, they watch every season of the show, and then all of a sudden, the main character's black now or whatever. I'm just being flippant. They're like, oh, well, that's not fair to me as the viewer somehow that's invested. I'm entitled for you to continue this product in a manner that I enjoy and can hold sacred in my heart. I don't understand that sentiment.
I want to push back a little bit because and I understand why you would say that because I've said that before too. So I get that is the sort of the default assumption. Yeah. But the more I try to come at this with an open mind and I try to come at this and go, okay, let's not paint them as comic book villain idiots any more than we want them to paint us. I assume we're in the same, but so let's assume for the moment it's not that dumb because what you've just described requires someone to be pretty fucking dumb. And pretty fucking. I
don't necessarily believe that, but
really,
I'll
you can't. If you're a grown adult, I don't think
it's dumb to play like, I don't know. Let's say God of War instead of Cory Barlog's vision, they change Kratos to a woman or something.
Okay.
I don't think it's
Hot.
dumb to play.
Hot.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Going.
I don't think it's dumb to like think that like, oh, they were really invested in the games that you worked on and the PSP or PS Vita games, the portable ones as well. Like they played every game and they read the spin-off non-canon books and whatever,
Mhm.
whatever there is about that. And then all of a sudden it's a woman now and they don't have any faithfulness to the source material anymore. Let's say it's Egyptian gods now, and they just don't care. Like they didn't evolve the Kratos character in the way that they did. They didn't change his narrative so that he adopts all these parental traits and is more reflective and everything. They're just like, screw all that. We're getting rid of all that and we're doing what we want.
Yeah,
and
as they
I don't
always
know
have,
that it's,
by the way.
I don't know that it's dumb for people to be upset about that.
I think it's dumb. I think it's dumb if you're over the age of 12. I think if you're over the age of, if you're under 12,
well,
it makes
that's
sense.
a bit of demonization.
Well,
there.
no, I don't care.
You didn't want to treat them like,
I don't, but I'm saying I'm not ascribing the motivation to them that you are, because I think that motivation cannot hold with people who are grown adults and self-aware. Because if you're under 12, I get it. If you're between 12 and 18, you're working through your shit. I get that it would kind of hit you, whatever. Once you get to be out in the real goddamn world and you go, there's stories and they're the same passion I brought to God of War that somebody may have loved. Now someone else is bringing their passion. You may not like it, but trust me, there's a whole fucking world of shit for you to devour. I hated the last 2 Indiana Jones movies. Doesn't mean I don't love Indiana Jones. I can move on with my goddamn life. So let's assume for the moment that the people who do what you're suggesting are a minority of dumb adults. And let's push them aside, because this is a movement that clearly is more than just a couple of
right.
A
like we don't
percentage.
Want to say that like all people that are left leaning or liberals, like, support, like, people label them as like the screaming people that go to, venues where people should have free speech and just yell and
right.
I think label. Yeah.
I don't have any interest in not getting beyond that. I'm so tired because I do know people like Colin, and I don't agree with a lot of Colin's politics, and he doesn't agree with a lot of mine.
Yeah.
But I like the guy. He's a good
rational human being. Yeah.
Right. And I'm just like,
and intelligent and articulate and everything.
My ex-father-in-law votes Republican all the time. I love the guy. I don't agree with him as far as I could fucking throw him when it comes to politics like that. But
yeah, I mean, me and my
I know he's not twirling his fucking mustache with the fucking hat on the train tracks. He's just not. And so
what do you
then
think it is then?
I don't know. That's why I do conversations like this, because I'm like, could somebody who's not a troll, and I know there's trolls in the chat.
I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you.
Yeah, what is actually the reason?
So the premise that these ideas have not been litigated is a fallacy. And it is a fallacy because everything in public discourse is litigated, is tested as far as people's approval behind it in real time. At all times, everything is tested in real time. Colin made a joke about women on National Women's Day or whatever, where he said, finally some silence or something.
Yeah. Day without a woman. Finally. Yeah. It was a
silence.
Right.
He was tried in the court of opinion and found guilty.
Right.
It was literally litigated. The majority of people determined that he should not have the career that he had anymore.
Right. And so he went and got a better one.
And
but
like
still,
people, I mean, I like Kind of Funny a lot. But people, so I let's say he has something to lose. And
sure, he did.
I don't know how much I want to get into this, but like Lono is a great example as well. He was tried in the court of public opinion.
I don't know who that is.
And
Lono?
Okay, let's not get into that then. But there's people who have been tried in the court of public opinion, and whether it was fair or not, people decided it was litigated. People decided where society was going to fall. That's what the entire Me Too movement was. That's what, the discussions on trans rights. I mean, like, basically what you have is you have a group of people that support the status quo politically, in movies and cinema and television, in games. Okay. They want things to stay the way that they are. They want their love, sex, and rock and roll, or whatever, drug, sex, and rock and roll, or whatever. They want, things to be the way they always have been.
Sure.
They want James Bond to remain a middle-aged, suave British man.
Right.
Don't make it
I
Idris
got it.
Elba,
Right.
whatever
Right.
it is. That's the way things are. It's the way things should
And
be.
I don't fault them for wanting that. What
Not
I fault them
necessarily,
for
no.
is being so unlogical that it's like, I get you want it. My kids, when they were little, would like candy every day, but that's not the reality of it. The reality of it is a lot of creative work is done by progressive leftist artists. It always has been. And they are always pushing envelopes. And there is, as Fox News showed, there is entertainment out there. And there's a big audience for entertainment out there that is more conservative leaning. But go make your own fucking games. I mean, again, I don't mean that like I'm pushing him away.
Here that's pervasive in that somebody like a Colin or somebody like a Lono or somebody that we love and care about that we think has good opinions, that's intelligent and articulate, could basically get crucified publicly. And I can endorse that fear. Like, I understand it. I'm empathetic for it because it has literally happened. And I think that's what the gentleman is talking about, is like, these people don't necessarily deserve this, but what we're talking about is cancel culture, basically. But
when
the
does
fallacy
that actually
is the idea that it could be stopped, I guess. Like, if enough people support an idea, if enough people support that trans people should be able to exist, or if enough people support that somebody should be canceled, to take what I think is something that is like inherently good and then inherently bad, that fall supposedly under the same ideology and the same line of woke thinking. If people subscribe to that, what are we going to do about that? Like, what are you going to do, person that loves the status quo, that doesn't want anything to change, that doesn't want movies to have writing that is inherently inclusionary and promotes messaging? Movies have promoted messaging about things since forever.
As have comics, every piece of art.
What do you think artists do? They try to convey ideas about things. Like, go read 1984. Like, what?
Yeah. Well, people say, well, I want to come home and play my video games and relax. And somebody said that to me in my chat the other day. And I said, okay, can you give me some ideas that are not Mario, Sonic, Pac-Man, that you've played in the last 20 years, that have been made in the last 20 years, that are devoid of some kind of intent and messaging from the creators? It doesn't have to be politics, but they're saying something whether they want to or not, because that's the nature of the creative beast. And I think you're right in the sense that it's not that it's saying something they don't like.
Right.
And again, that's okay, but
I can understand when that thing is weaponized. I think there's a difference. And it's getting conflated. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Colin Moriarty and others getting canceled, and like, you can say that Colin's better off for it, but like, there's other people that are better off for it, and they've suffered tremendously.
So talk to me
interim.
Okay, but this idea, let's first, and I'm not saying it's not, I'm genuinely asking, the idea of cancel culture being so pervasive that it is an actual thing that has these people running scared versus being a believable boogeyman that they can use to basically bang
I think the
ideas.
sentiment is totally the former. Absolutely. I think people are legitimately in fear of it.
Oh, I'm sure they're in fear of it, but is it evidence based? Like, I'm not saying there aren't people you can point to that have been canceled.
Well, I think that's evidence. If somebody has been made to suffer in a tangible way in their life because of a prevailing ideology, I understand people having fear over that and wanting to fight that. I can understand
now why, those crazy black people. I mean, that's been the history of them in America since they were fucking put in chains and brought over, is that we're not going to hire you because you're black. You can't sit at the restaurant because you're black. You can't use these bathrooms because you're black. And suddenly, when the shoe's on the other foot, I guess you're saying, which is, we don't like our ideology being questioned. You're canceling us. I'm like, welcome to fucking America.
But I'm not going to blame anybody for self-preservation based behavior.
No,
right?
But you might blame them for a lack of self-awareness.
Sure, maybe. But I don't I don't know. Even if you are self-aware, I think you can be self-aware that you're self-interested. I mean, I don't know, but I think there's a conflating of like diversity inclusion and like, I don't know, making Ghostbusters all women. And
they were
like,
all men in the first one.
right, exactly. And, you know, making Spider-Man and Suicide Squad worse somehow and taking away everyone's Spider-Man 2. People say Spider-Man 2's. I haven't played it. I haven't gotten
Not
around
Suicide Squad. Spider-Man worse and okay. What do you mean
Suicide
worse?
Squad. So apparently Sweet Baby's responsible for the whatever's bad about Suicide Squad.
The Brainiac boss fight? I doubt that. But you know,
anyway, you get what I'm saying. I think there's a conflation of there is a serious risk / potency of a pervasive ideology that attacks status quo, conservative-minded individuals for simply holding the beliefs that they have, and can tangibly force those people to suffer in a tangible way in their lives, in their livelihoods. That is being equated with wokeism and anyone that has an agenda and wants to put these ideas in medium that doesn't tangibly affect anyone in any way. And so I think we need to sever, like, our job as people of rational discourse, right? You and me, Jaffe, is to try to sever that linkage, that equating of, hey, we get it. You don't want what happened to Colin and what happened to others to happen to you because of this pervasive ideology and people in this attack mob mindset of go after them, get them, kill them. And that is kind of the discourse that this individual, kindred, whoever, espouse. So I can understand the fear.
Sure.
I can understand the rally.
I can understand the fear, but I also, because the solve is basically what you're saying is put your views, but because it's like that guy who called in, we're talking about whose friend walked away from him because
hilarious.
but he had a certain take on something and she didn't like it, so she washed her hands of him, right?
She was infected with the woke ideology.
Regardless of
she has
what
no
the reason
agency to choose for herself her own ideals and who she wants to engage with.
Regardless of what the reason was, though, what does he suggest? That
they don't want it to exist, David. They don't want that ideology to exist. Exactly. And it's like they want to pretend like it doesn't, and they're mad that it's being infused into games. It's like because they want to live in a wind tunnel, in a tunnel vision, and be like, oh, don't show me politics, don't show me inclusion. I don't want to see the stories about a trans bisexual. You know, oh man, why'd you have to make it that? I don't know. Why has everything been about straight white men since forever?
Yeah.
You know,
Titus Crow in the chat says, I'm not sure if Jaffe can see it, but the winds are changing in America. It's moving to the right. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't, whether it is or isn't.
If it
that's
is,
the
we'll
thing.
get less of this. Great.
Right. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not in a contest that you have to believe what I believe. Just leave me alone. And let me, if I go back to making games, let me make whatever the fuck I want to make. And if you don't like it, I respect that.
I guess they do.
Go give your money to the people who make
like manipulated.
Maybe. Well, then don't shop for their games. Gee, is it okay to be white, Cyrus? Yes, it's more than okay to be white. It's okay to be whatever the fuck you are, as long as you're not a fucking asshole.
No, I will say some of these groups make fun of white people and whiteism, and they're
great.
Like,
then they're idiots. We're not all drinking from the same well. I'm sure, but all right, I'm going to let you go, Kurt. We need to have a conversation about our Marvel Snap conversation, but I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah,
all right, see you, buddy. All right, I'm going to bring on Kenny and then Kirstafa. If you want to talk, the link, I'll put the link up right now. If you want to call in, you don't have to be on camera. You can. I'm a racist now. I don't care. Fuck you all. Not you all in the chat, but people who say that. Okay. Kenny.
Hey,
is this Kenny Loggins? Is this Kenny? Kenny, I don't know any other Kennys. Kenny Rogers? Kenny. How you doing, man? What's going on?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So I'm just playing some FIFA. I was going through the
just getting those icons for the weekend. So I was just listening to the conversation.
Can I get you to speak up a little bit? It's kind of hard to hear you, Kenny.
Okay. How's that? Is that a little better?
Much better. Thank you.
Oh, you know what? Let me do this. 1 second. See this way.
Phantom Boss says they're hiring people for their race, gender, and political views, even if they have next to no experience. Cool. Then guess what? If it's a mistake, they'll go out of business. What do you care? I mean, what do you? I don't mean that like I'm being a dick to you. I'm just like, so don't buy their shit till they make good shit. Hey, Kenny. All right, go. I can hear you much better.
That's much better, right? All right, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I guess I'll try to bring it back to games a bit because the previous speaker was kind of going about Hollywood and wokeism,
okay.
and I do believe that some of it is warranted. There are situations where, and I'm speaking as quote unquote African American, apolitical. So,
are you not actually African American?
Well, I say quote unquote because there's a lot of history and context towards a lot of those things, right? Because I'm born in the States, my family's from Haiti.
Are you a black dude?
Yeah, I'm a black guy. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying because I mean, I'm assuming that's where we're going. I don't think we're okay. So you're speaking as someone with experience being a black man in America. Can we say that?
Right. Okay. There you go. There we go. Much better. Yeah. So with that said, I just once again we're bringing it back to games, and a perfect example was, for example, games like Forspoken or Callisto Protocol, where if you scroll through YouTube, for example, and you look at the thumbnails, everything is just so negative. And the guy you had this morning, the dude from Electric Playground,
Victor Lucas, yeah.
Right, he alluded to that as well, and I agreed with him that this kind of this I guess this toxic industrial complex that we're living through right now, that I don't think it's healthy. And then and then on top of that, you bring in the wokeism, you bring in the sweet baby tooth or teeth, whatever they're called, and it's just I just find that it's a lot of people there's a lot of alarmism, where some of it, yes, is warranted. I see it, but a lot of it is just flair. A lot of it is just a tinge of racism. Let's be honest, it's a little bit racism.
A little bit racist, yeah.
Just a little bit, right? I'll give the folks on the right that it's not as bombastic as some may say, but there's definitely, let's at least be honest and admit that yes, there is some level of racism to it. So, and it's just a very toxic environment that I see that's bleeding into games.
Well, let's take games then. So as a black guy, do you feel when you were younger, someone like Miles Morales in a video game, would you have cared either way, or is it appreciated on the part of, like the guy was saying, Peter Parker for millions of kids, which I don't think had to be white, was an aspirational kind of fantasy figure? Does it matter as a black guy if these characters are black or white to you?
Excellent question. Because let's put it this way, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other black guys on here could attest to this, right? For us in the community, when we play games, we do not look, at least for me, I definitely speak for me, we do not look at color. When I play Spider-Man, I don't think, oh, another white guy, like, oh, another white guy. Like, we just play the game because we want to be in that world, be in that environment. So to see like a Miles Morales, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like Miles Morales is a dude from the Bronx, Puerto Rican. Okay, cool. So it kind of, it's a little disheartening when now I go to the right side of the internet, I go to the right side of the YouTube sphere, and I'm seeing these videos from guys like Nerdrotic or a Melanie Mac or some of these folks. And I hate to call them out, but like, they're very big in the space, and some of the content they put out, I just find it's like okay, so he's a black guy. Like, so what? Like, now this is where I agree with the right. If you tell me, okay, Miles Morales is a black guy, and even then, right, because there is a group of people that's into that stuff. I personally don't ascribe to it, but I get it. Okay, now he's transgender and he got pink hair.
But you didn't finish your. If you tell you that now Miles Morales is a black guy, where were you going with that?
No, I'm just saying that for us, like in the community, like we don't think about that. Like when we, at least
No,
for me, when
I know. But you were saying that if somebody says, "Hey, Miles Morales is a black guy," or he's transgender, or whatever,
right.
you
So
saying,
all I'm saying is that for me personally, like everyone has their limits, right? And this is where now you get into the religious space, and where some people, for example, may not be comfortable with that, right? So now if I'm grabbing the controller and I'm playing the game, and then now this is what I have to play as, I may not be all that comfortable with it. But
I
am
understand.
I gonna spew the type of vitriol that I see online?
Sure, but let me ask you this then. Have there been things in entertainment in the past that you have been uncomfortable with?
Huh, good question. I guess because in terms of my politics, especially now I've gotten older, I'm 42, so so I tend to be a little bit more conservative. I believe what they say is that when you're younger, you tend to be more progressive, but as you get older, you become more conservative in some of your
That's
things.
assuming you don't have any money. If you get older and you have money, then you become more progressive.
Really, you think so?
Well, but I think so, because ultimately, if the only reason a lot of people give up their liberal values is because they're like, Jesus, these might sound great, but this is not how the world works. But that's a different conversation. My point though is what's wrong with them being uncomfortable? And I don't mean that like you just need to suck it down, motherfucker. What I mean is, if there's a game that has something you don't like about it, where do you think that comes from? That sense of entitlement that it's maybe it's not for you, then go play something else. So where is that coming from? Why does Melanie Mack think? I don't really know. I've been on a podcast with her once. I don't know her, but you brought her up, and I know her name. I don't remember the other guy's name you mentioned, Nerdotic or something. But why do they think that they have the controls over what these creatives should make? I mean, go play something else.
I agree with you 100%. That's what I was going to say is that, yeah, okay, I may not be comfortable with, like I said, a Miles Morales transgender character, but hey, that's what the creators want to put in the game. As long as it makes sense within the story, then I'm okay with it. Once again, as long as it makes sense within the story.
Yeah, but then you're like everybody should be, in my opinion. You're just either a fan of good or bad writing. Like you're either complaining about bad writing or you're celebrating good writing. If it doesn't make sense, it's a problem. And that, I think, is an absolute valuable contribution to the discussion. If people are like, look, whether this is forced diversity or not, and let's assume for the sake of argument it is, and it probably is in a lot of cases, it's the job of the writers and the creators to take those executive notes and make it work. Just like Alien wasn't necessarily forced diversity, but it was a woman in a very rarely woman-filled archetype. And guess what? Ridley Scott and Sigourney Weaver figured it out, and Dan O'Bannon, and they made it work. Blame the fucking creatives. Don't blame the art has always been influenced by people outside of the artist group if they're being funded. It happens to be this stuff, but in the past it was, you can't have sex in movies, or couples in the 50s couldn't sleep in the same bed. Well, there were still movies that made it clear couples were fucking the shit out of each other. They just had to find a better way to do it. Not a better way to fuck the shit out of each other, but a better way to communicate that without getting in trouble. But anyway, I hear you, Kenny. You and I are cut from the same cloth, which is, I don't really know. I don't know where I'm going with that, Kenny, but I appreciate you calling in, buddy. Thanks, man.
Definitely be good, man.
All right. See you, man. All right, fellas. Let's see. Fuck off. The Last Jedi is drizzling shit of movies. So then don't go see it. Don't go see it. Well, let me ask you guys that in the chat before I get to the next calls. Why, isn't that the best solution? Just why can't it be Darth Nugget says Jaffe just culturally appropriated a black man's cloth. That's right. Why is it like, and look, by the way, it works. The only thing that really works, these companies don't care about diversity. These companies care about making decisions that make them money. And for the longest time, they thought it was this and that and the other. And even Bob Iger, who runs Disney, says, okay, we went too far. So they went too far. Big deal. They'll change or they'll go out of business. English says, Jaffe, when women complain about CS, what is CS? Should men tell women it's not for you, or go play something else. What is CS? CS Lewis? I don't really. Counter Strike? Counter Strike is. I know lots of women who play Counter Strike. Counter Strike. Okay, so let's assume. What are you talking about? So let's assume that's the case. When women complain about Counter Strike, clitoris sucking, says Eddie T. Okay, you mean the toxicity. So, okay, well, what I would say is if there is a company that, in this case, Valve, but let's assume there's a company that runs Counter-Strike and they feel the toxicity is worth protecting, then they will. And you can tell women, hey, don't go, I wouldn't fucking go in there. If you want to play a game, cool, but that ain't for you, because that the publisher lets people say all kinds of racist, misogynistic shit. They have a right to do that. I support that. But I also support the right of a company like Valve, or in this case, I know a lot of times with Call of Duty, they keep pushing the ways to get toxic discussion out. I also support their right to say, hey, we don't want people coming into our environment and spewing a lot of this shit because it's bad for business. But if you want to make your business model, hey, we really want to appeal to a bunch of folks who either like or don't care about that kind of community, then they have a right to do that. So yes, I would say go play another fucking game if the publisher doesn't have a problem with it. What's the problem? It's not bad for business, says Matthew. That says you, Matthew. What do you know? You may be right. I'm not arguing. This is the problem with this conversation sometimes. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm saying if a company decides it is, like Disneyland says, you can't come in here and start yelling, I hate the Jews and the gays and the black people. They will ask you to leave and tell you to never come back. Okay? Now, whether or not that's good or bad for business is irrelevant. That's their choice to make because it's their fucking company. It's also your choice to make that you don't need to shop there. I don't know why this is a problem. All right, let me bring in didn't I just have Kenny on? I'm an old man, fellas. You got to live with it. Kuristafa. I haven't talked to you in a while. How you doing, man? You got to turn your volume down, baby. Turn your volume down.
Good. Wait, what's up?
You're on a delay. You got to listen through. You can't listen through the.
No, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I can hear me too. There's an echo. Turn down your computer.
Oh, okay. I'll try to do that. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you great.
Okay, yeah. So well, first off, how have you been? I've been good. Hope you've been well. I'm going to play the side of I don't think Sweet Baby Inc. is that good for the gaming industry. I'm going to play that side.
Yeah, that's not a bad side. They might not be. Nobody's disagreeing with that. That's not the conversation. But keep going. Are you there? Kuristafa. Are we still live? What happened? Are we still going? Maybe the bad guys got us. Did we? Okay, let me bring in somebody else. Kuristafa, call back or something. I don't know what's going on with that, man. Ryan Garcia, it's Jaffe. What's going on, man?
What's up, Jaffe? It's Pete Turtle. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I got your real name.
No, that's not my real name. You don't know who Ryan Garcia is?
No, I don't know who Ryan Garcia is.
Oh my God, he's been telling the truth about what's going on in the world all day today. He's been all over.
What does he do? Where does he work?
He's a big time boxer who's about to have a big fight coming up.
Yeah.
But he's been all over the news because he's been exposing the elites that are raping children. And he says that they held him down at Bohemian Grove, forced him to watch kids have sex, and then he claims he was a victim, and at the age of 2 he was sodomized by these global elites. He says he no longer cares, and he's going to expose everybody. And then the last thing he did, there was a woman who was trying to stop him. I don't know if it was his girlfriend or his publicist or whatever, but she was like, you can't say any more about this. These people don't care about you. And he said, as long as I have Christ on my side, That's all that matters. And then
okay, so I hope he actually does name names and provide evidence. I don't think there are very few people on this planet that would defend these folks if there's evidence. You actually have real evidence that Tom Hanks is a kid diddler? Great. Let's see it and put the fucker in jail, as much as I like Tom Hanks movies. But until that happens, I hadn't seen anything. And doesn't mean, So anyway, what do you think of this topic?
Well, I know you say I'm repetitive, so let me just tell you how I honestly feel about all this.
Okay.
I hate what you're doing. I was going to call in and I was going to articulate it the same way the first caller did. He snatched those exact words out of my mouth. But let me dumb it down for you a little bit, because I don't think you fully understood him, so I'm going to speak your language.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I'm sick and tired.
What language is that? I don't even know what you said just now. What did you say?
At the end of the day,
at the end of the day. Okay.
Tired of both sides trying to be hyper moral and everybody's trying to be self-righteous.
Mm-hmm.
This is a culture war, goddammit. And you got to play ugly if you want to win this war. I'm sorry. I'm sick of this. Oh,
what does winning
right
war look like? Why do we have to fight a war at all?
Jaffe, don't interrupt the cooking, please. At the end of the day,
okay.
At the end of the day, it is a war, and all this. Oh well, this person should have the right to do this, and this. We're trying to crush each other, okay? I believe everyone on the internet, all these gamers who I think are lame. If you haven't had all your accounts banned and all that, you're lame if you're still on all these things, because that means you're not speaking the truth. And at the end of the day, ruin all these Sweet Baby Inc.'s lives. I'm not saying harm them. I'm not saying hit them, but embarrass them. You know how we call Neil Druckmann, Neil Cuckman? Just embarrass them. Embarrass them with memes. Embarrass them, make their lives a living hell, and make a joke out of them. And don't be right. Just be a winner. I'm sick and tired of this. Yeah, you can do this and you can do that as long as you're doing it the right. Okay, well, that's how we end up with Indiana Jones.
Okay, but don't you think, though, that if you're going to preach winning, the preaching should come from someone who has won?
Well, what do you mean coming from?
You're dating a high school kid, Pete Turtle, and you're 40.
I'm not 40. Let's not spread lies.
How old are you, Pete Turtle?
I'm in my close to mid-30s. I'm in my early 30s.
And you're dating a girl who's struggling with geometry class, correct?
She was until I helped her.
You are such a fucking pedophile. Jesus Christ.
But hold on. So do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying this is about the betterment. Can I say something real quick too? Because everybody.
One more thing, Pete Turtle. I gotta let you go.
Everybody's
Keep
been
going
about this whole cancel culture and all that.
Yes.
Nobody's really been canceled outside of like 3 people. Colin, whatever his last name is, I can't.
Colin wasn't canceled. Colin said something. The company he worked for, that he also owned a stake in, said, we think this is bad for business, and so they got rid of him.
No. That's not even true. He decided.
I talked to him.
I'm telling you what he said. He decided to leave that company. In fact, he even said Greg Miller actually was so upset at him because he didn't think that, not that he didn't think, but it would be difficult to do the show without him. Colin left himself. He never got canceled.
I understand, but what I'm saying is there was, like, if you listen to what he said that Tim said about him, that you make Greg unhappy, there was clearly an atmosphere already.
That's business, and that's what happens in partnerships. It's tough.
I understand.
He decided to leave. He didn't get the boot. And then he went on the gay conservative guys show and like a baby. Well,
I want to get back to the topic, though. I want to get back to the topic, Pete Turtle, because we can have that conversation later.
I want to have it with Colin.
Then have it with Colin. Give Colin a call.
Oh, you bring him on.
He don't want to talk to you, probably. I mean,
why not? Doesn't he like to talk to brilliant people?
He does. Thus, what I said. Pete Turtle, thank you, buddy. Always going to talk to you. I'll talk. Hey, by the way, you're supposed to call in and debate Mutant Mo sometime. People are waiting.
The guy keeps running from me.
You haven't called into a live show.
If he talks to me, I will shut porn down forever. He doesn't want to do it.
All right. Goodbye, Pete Turtle. Be well. Right. Goodness gracious. Let me try Kiristofa one more time. Let me get some of these chats first, though. I appreciate it. Jaffe, you scallywag, says Captain Hook. Thanks, buddy. Make use of yourself for once and polish me. Is that? I don't know what that means, but I will do my best if I'm not offended by it. Is it like a Blumpkin? Arthur Morgan, thank you, buddy, for that super chat. He says, by changing a character, you at the least are going against the original idea. True. And like Kratos. In my opinion, instead of changing the characters, just make a new IP. Sure, you could do that. But it's probably the same reason why you have people making movies like based on Battleship or Barbie. It has nothing to do with there's anything inherent in those properties that would make good movies. You get good writers in and you have Barbie. You get bad writers in and you have Battleship. The only reason not to make a new character and to race swap it is because you're going to get, it's a better way to rise above the noise. Oh my God, there's, Superman's kid is gay, or oh my God, this character who is black is now white, or whatever. It's just business. It's always fucking business. Jack Sparrow is not a black lesbian now. The new character may be, but it's not. They're not playing the same character Johnny Depp was. Okay, that's what Solidus Snake stood for, says Masochista. Thank you, buddy. Real freedom, no one controlling information or anything. Thoughts. My thoughts are no one's ever going to give you that. No one's ever going to give any of us that. I think what's clear is as much as we want to talk about how we would be different, humanity seems to have a real big flaw, which is when they get power, they change to such a degree that they just, I don't know. I don't know. It's a chicken and egg thing. I don't know if the people who ultimately ascend to power are psychopaths to begin with, or the power is what makes them look at other people as just widgets moving around the board to make more power for them. But fundamentally speaking, the information, maybe it wants to be free, but as long as there's a possibility to not make it free, it ain't going to be free. Carlos, thank you, buddy, very, very much, buddy. He says, looking at the Sweet Baby Inc. website, they haven't worked on that many games. Seems like people are overreacting, but that's the internet. It is the internet. I mean, end of the day, they've worked on some games. What's funny about Forspoken is I saw Gene Park today tweet out, and that Forspoken you can get now for $10. And he tweeted out, he's like, guys, I'm telling you, man, this is a good game. And I played the demo. I liked it, but I've never played the actual game because I just didn't want to do another open world thing. It's almost hard to believe someone with real power is a bad actor, says For the Love of Gaming. I know, but I don't know which comes first is my point. All right. Let me bring in Ember's Arcade back. Let's see if he stays on this time. Then I'll bring in Hammer Pants Kirstafa. Ember's Arcade. Oh, hang on. Let me get this chat. Nitra says, would you like it if Sony asked you to change Twisted Metal's content over and over until it ends up appealing to no one? Nope, I wouldn't like it. Guess what? I'd stop working there. They don't owe me anything. It's not my property. They are paying for it. They can do whatever the fuck they want to do. And what I can do is walk away and say, these motherfuckers do not respect the creative process. They do not respect the people, in this case, me, that they've hired to bring about this title with the teams I'm working with. And so as soon as I can, I'm going to get another job. But they have that right. Of course I won't like it. But is that what this is about? I get that you don't like it. But where did you get sold the bill of goods that you're going to like everything that gets put in front of you? All right. Ember's Arcade, are you here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. Where were we, pal?
So a couple of things that I wanted to say. The gentleman that you spoke with that was on camera, not the previous two, but the one before, said a couple of things that I want to address, and I hope he hears this. First of all, what happened to Colin Moriarty was not the litigation of an idea. It was the attempted destruction of a person's reputation and career and future prospects. Let's make that clear.
Well, hang on. You saying let's make it clear doesn't make it clear. I need you to make it more clear.
I am making it absolutely clear here. The litigation of an idea is testing the merits of an idea. It is not going after in an organized fashion to destroy a person's career, reputation, and future prospects. I've said it twice. That's as clear as it gets. Secondly, what happened? Listen.
I don't work that way. Just because you come in with a forceful tone and and all that, and you've got some thoughts like that, that doesn't mean they're right. We have to, just like you're saying, they have to be litigated. Let
me hit these 2 points that he said first, and then we can go back and take a look.
All right,
he said very specific, right? So he said that was a litigation, what happened to Colin. It wasn't. It just wasn't. The litigation is testing the merits of an idea, not by going and destroying somebody's reputation. I've said it 3 times now. The second thing that he said is that when you ask me for a direct example of cancellation in my life or anything that resembles that behavior in my life, I gave you a personal example, which I don't like doing because I don't want to talk about myself, but I gave it to you anyway. And he described that as hilarious. It wasn't hilarious to watch a close friend get radicalized by a hyper-partisan, hyper-progressive ideology and then lose contact with them forever over a single disagreement. It was really,
but that wasn't you being canceled. That wasn't like, that was a friend having a disagreement to a degree that you walked away from each other. You're saying that's a new phenomenon?
What I'm saying is that's an approximation of a behavior that we observe en masse from a certain personality archetype of person that prescribes to the ideology that we're talking about in Sweet
Okay,
Baby.
then give me an example. If this is happening en masse, then if it's happening en masse and you're giving me an example of kind of a...
You're moving the goalposts. I've given you a personal example. I've given you a professional example. I've given you an example of somebody that you know that has...
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, well, wait a minute. Let's do the professional one, because the personal one is oh no, I grew apart from my friend. That's not.
You asked me for an example in which I've
and that's not being canceled. That's not being canceled. But let's take the Colin one
of that behavior.
Absolutely. I don't want an approximation when you're saying it's happening en masse.
It's not
if it's happening en masse, I don't need an approximation. I want a detail.
It isn't a cancellation by definition because I don't have any institutional power or public presence. I had somebody that I lost.
So the only people that can be canceled have institutional power.
Describe this ideology.
Okay, so we're saying that the only people who can fit the definition of having been canceled is they have an institutional presence or some kind of power. Correct?
Well, I would love to sit down and define what this means, but I think
we're doing it now.
Yeah, I think that is somewhat of a prerequisite as somebody that has some kind of power, career, institutional, public, or private even, but something that can be taken from them forcefully via.
Okay, so you don't need power; you just need a job. Okay, so you could work at McDonald's flipping burgers, and you just started yesterday.
What do you
don't have power.
Do you not think that a job is power?
Yes, but I'm trying to get it clarified. So you're not talking about the manager, the CEO of McDonald's. You're saying you could be a fry cook just starting, and you could still be canceled because it's the job we're talking about. Correct?
You and I could sit down together and go
correct
through several. Yeah, correct.
Okay, so
but you and I could sit down and go through several local news segments about somebody that works as a fry cook across the country, and
just give me one. It's happening en masse. Give me one.
I've given you several.
You've given me one that is not one.
What about Vincent Janita, for example? Another one in the
Tell me about that. I don't know what that is. What happened there?
So then we can't have a conversation if you haven't done the homework. Right?
You're naming a name. That's not homework. Did you send me a syllabus with Vince Janito on it? How the fuck am I supposed to?
It was on Sacred Symbols. He's a prominent, or he was a prominent writer at IGN. This was a public. He was part of the massive Me Too. The story.
Big guy, beard guy. I like this guy. I talked with him at E3. Yeah, good guy.
And after a private investigation at IGN, it was found that he was not the sexual assaulter that he was made out to be by a private independent. I think it was Variety or one of these digital publications. His name is still up as though he is a sexual assaulter. A private investigation essentially absolved him, although there was some misbehavior. It was not to the extent that it was originally described. And now he's lost his career and he works as a barista somewhere in Colorado. Right? I mean, there you go. Right? So we can do this all night.
Well, no, let's just stick with that one then. Okay. So this is a guy that has been cleared of, and this is fact, right? I can look this up, and he has been cleared of any wrongdoing that is what he was accused of, correct?
According to Vincent Janito, a private investigator hired by IGN looked into the matter that was happening inside of the workplace, and it was found that both parties were at fault, but neither party was so at fault that, being a sexual assaulter for life as your reputation was merited. Even though that's the case, he doesn't have his job. No one gave him his job back.
But was he fired falsely? Like, can he file a lawsuit?
I don't know. I have no clue.
If
you would have to ask Vince. I don't know if he's.
Well, I'm asking you because this is happening so often that you bring it up. Haven't you done the homework on the guy that you brought up as an example?
Well, I have done the homework. Here is what.
So that's what I'm asking.
We're not talking about Vincent Janito specifically. I've given you examples.
I thought we just were.
I've given you examples because of the larger topic of conversation.
You're not very good at this, sir. You're not good at this.
Good at this.
You're not super good at this. You're good at the presentation of it, but I'm genuinely interested in real answers. You're interested in winning a conversation.
I'm absolutely interested in winning the conversation.
Sorry?
I mean, yeah, I'm 100% interested in winning this interaction, 100%. And the way
but I'm interested in just getting the data. I want the information. I just want to learn something from this. I'm asking, what I'm saying is, here's my theory. My theory is cancel culture real? Probably. Has it been blown out of proportion and turned into a boogeyman? Quite probably, possibly. And that's what I'm trying to understand. That's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of. So every time you bring something up that doesn't really, I mean, don't you, out of all this stuff happening en masse, don't you have one single fucking clear-cut case of this? Does anybody in the chat?
Have I not given you two?
No,
in the
you've given me Vince, and I've said, well, does Vince have a case that he can sue because he was falsely dismissed?
Is that the requisite for it being considered cancellation? Is having
sure? Because what were the grounds upon which he was fired?
He was fired because of some kind of mispropriety in the office, but nothing to the extent that he was named a sexual assaulter in the workplace.
So he was correctly fired. Probably it wasn't necessarily what the naming was, but he was defamed by the very nature of the lawsuit. Correct. So he can sue the person who sued him for defamation. Correct.
I would assume so. I have no idea. I've not talked to him about this. I don't know. That would be between him and his lawyer.
Call me back when you've done your homework and we can talk about it. There goes Ember's Arcade off into the night. Don't accuse me of not doing my homework when you can't call up and you didn't do your fucking homework. I'll even admit I didn't know who the guy was when you told me and I asked you questions. Then you push back and get all fancy-pantsy with me. Give me a fucking break. All right. Kuristafa. It's Kuristafa. Did we already talk? Oh, right. You had a Kuristafa. Fuck it. Ravnos. It's Jaffe. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
Okay. Doing a show, baby. What's going on with you?
Yeah, I know you're doing a show. So I missed the beginning about the sweet baby crap.
Okay.
What is the deal with them? Like, why do people hire them? Like,
okay, I'm only laughing because you're like, everybody, let's slow down. Ravnos just showed up. Let's rewind. All right. Sorry. What do you?
The whole show, but answer.
What do you want to know? What do you want to know?
Why in the hell does someone like Naughty Dog or Insomniac or whoever supposedly use them, why do they hire an outside company to tell them whether or not they're being diverse enough or whether they are handling their diversity in the right way? Like,
well, I don't think Naughty Dog,
these companies, incapable of knowing the difference between pandering and writing a game story that has more than just
I think they are. Here's what I think. And it's actually a great question. And here's
for me.
Yeah, here's the questions that we need answered before people fly off the handle with this. And they may have a reason to fly off the handle. We need to know, and this may be easily discoverable, but I haven't done homework. I really haven't on this. We need to know, does Sony acquiesce to companies like, or specifically BlackRock or Vanguard, that are demanding levels of diversity proof in order to recommend them to their investors? That's question A. Question B is, if that's the case and they did bring BlackRock on, what level of involvement and, even more importantly, influence did someone like BlackRock have? To hear the internet talk about it, to hear the internet talk about it, you would be under the assumption that literally Neil Druckmann goes at the end of the day to the CEO of Sweet Baby and says, "Is this okay?" And maybe that's happening, but my guess would be that that's not happening, because you're not going to keep the talent that you have at Sony by treating them that way. So my guess is it's probably like, hey, we'd like to be more diverse. And one of the whole points of racism, misogyny, homophobia is nobody thinks they're racist. Nobody thinks they're misogynistic, but everybody's got a little bit of influence in there. And they're like, hey, we have any blind spots here? Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, these 5 things we're not going to change, but thanks for that. Thanks for the heads up on those 2 things. We'll make an adjustment.
I mean, that sounds more rational, but you're paying an outside company. And I think the biggest problem with Sweet Baby was you kept hearing, oh, Sweet Baby, Sweet Baby. It's like, what the fuck is a Sweet Baby, right? Like, for one, that's a really bad name.
Yeah, I know, but whatever.
A company.
Yeah. Bigger problems, but sure.
Then that video came out where it was like these people going like, oh my God, look at that bedroom. That's supposed to be a black person's bedroom? Or like,
Great.
oh my God, that is not a Puerto Rican
I get why
like, what is happening? Like,
sure, but let them. But I get why you don't like them. I haven't seen that video.
I don't like them, but I don't like them because it makes me sick to my stomach to think that Ted Price is so fucking dumb that he doesn't know whether his game is being culturally.
I don't think in that. Okay, but what should make you upset then is fans who think Ted Price is so fucking dumb, and Corey and Neil are so fucking toothless that they're going to be like, we don't know what we're doing. Sweet Baby, come on down, help us make our video game. Come on.
Do you think it was what? It was Sony saying you have to see these.
I don't know, and it would be nice. Wouldn't it be great if somebody had some fucking facts on this? But let's just take the worst. Let's take the worst, which is Sony acquiesces to BlackRock because they want the investment. And one of BlackRock's demands to acquiesce is you need to hire some consulting firm because you guys can miss stuff. Okay, great. Here's a couple of choices. We'll take Sweet Baby. Okay, fine. So let's say Sweet Baby comes in and, goes, okay, this is what we think you should do. If Sony literally made their games worse in your mind to get investment, then again, it's like that's their business prerogative. Just stop buying their shit.
No. Here's the thing. I have not played Spider-Man 2, not because
it's great game,
but because I'm not going to play Spider-Man 2 until I finish Miles Morales.
Love Miles. Great game.
It is very fun, and I left a comment on one of your videos when you were talking about pandering, like, oh, if you think this is, or not pandering, forced diversity, which that's another thing that drives me nuts. Not forced diversity, but the fact that
sorry, hang on.
Why the disco?
Did you guys hear that?
Was that funk?
This is soundboard. I pressed the wrong button. Keep going. I'm eating candy. I wanted to mute myself while you're talking. Go.
Yeah, but like, so I haven't played the game, so I'm not like, oh my God, they ruined it. Which, whatever. They tried that back when supposedly Anita Sarkeesian was going everywhere and talking to people. It's like, oh, Ratchet and Clank sucks now because they let Anita Sarkeesian in the building, so she's infested it with her wokeness or whatever. It's like, yeah, right. But then you get to the Sweet Baby thing, and oh, it's a real company. And they list companies that have used them, and that's when you're like, what happened to just making video games? And if you wanted to have a black character in your game, or a Hispanic character in your game, or an Asian character, or a white character, great.
But you're looking through you're looking at the past incorrectly.
But not the far past. I'm looking at like Gears of War, dude. No one called Gears of War.
I understand that, but this is what my last video was about that people seem to miss. It's not the fact that the woke thing, as you call it, has always been there. It's the fact that there have always been demands on creatives that haven't come from the purest place, but it's always come from business.
Yes.
The Sony hive brain, if all these things did occur in the way people are saying, was never. It wasn't like somebody at Sony woke up and said, God, I want to kumbaya the fuck out of this business. They woke up and said the thing they always say, which is, I hope this quarter is better than last quarter so I can buy another fucking yacht. And right now, the way to get that is with a certain investment, and they do certain things to get it. That's no different than the way to get certain things was, M-rated titles sell more than T. Make sure there's a lot of blood and guts in there because we want that M. Right? There's always these things that have nothing to do with the purity of the art form that affect the art form. And I'm not saying one is not worth debating and the other one is, but I'm saying that the idea that the argument is it's corrupting it. And where was this when we were younger playing games? It's always been there. Maybe it was simply better integrated Or maybe it was stuff that didn't bother you as much because you liked M-rated games. But there has always been that. And I just, calling that out doesn't make me a Sweet Baby Inc. supporter. Calling that out makes me someone who's been in the business for over 20 years. And I'm telling, and you've been in the business too.
Yeah,
Of course they do that.
So Sony would like say, hey, you need to do this, or you need to like talk to this firm before you go ahead with your game design submittal, or like
no, there was no firm, but it was things like, there would be, it's like, I mean, it's everything from, I know that's your passion project, Jaffe. You would like to make a playable version of Jane Austen, but we need something that's going to sell in Toys R Us. Could you maybe not do that and do Twisted Metal instead? Everything from that, there's no difference there in terms of the way a company works. It's decisions that get made from your bosses that keep you within a certain pin so you can do your work, but you're doing your work at the pleasure of them because they are ultimately investing the money and paying the bills, and they are hoping they make the money back. And so just because, and that's why I'm saying it's like you can be mad, and I would agree with you that the integration of the content or of the forced notes isn't very good these days. That may be true. That's certainly true in a lot of cases. But to act like the argument is not that, but it's like the purity is being ruined. Come on.
No, dude,
it's never been pure.
I was more confused than mad. It's like, it's just because the way I understood it, which now that you're saying, it's obviously Sony was getting money, but they're only getting the money if they reach
I didn't say that. I'm saying that's the accusation, and it seems kind of correct, but I don't know.
The global, whatever it's called, the EGS, or I can't remember what it's called. Ethical guideline, something.
Right. That's a real thing. I didn't think it really was, but it was pointed out to me, and I apologized and said I was wrong. I'm like, oh my God, that's a real thing. But we don't know, or I don't know the Sony involvement, but let's assume it is. All right, Ravnos, good to talk to you, buddy. As always. See you, bud. I saw this in the chat. David Douglas says maybe Kevin Spacey was an example of someone being canceled. He was exonerated but lost his status career in Hollywood. So, I mean, it's a really interesting thing, though. I know. I mean, again, let's take Kevin Spacey and assume that he didn't get off for any reason other than he wasn't guilty. And I'm not saying that's true or not. I'm saying that every one of these cases against him was bullshit. That seems a little hard to believe, but let's assume that's the case. Yeah. I mean, it sucks, but is that, I don't know. I mean, it's weird to say that that's being canceled versus these people. Like, let's assume that all of these were lies. Well, all it would take for him to do is sue the fuck out of all these people and go on a fucking, Good Morning America and say, here's the lawsuit against these 12 people that falsely accused me. I won all 12 of them. And here's my story. And he would be back in everyone's good graces in 5 fucking seconds. But I mean, I get that you're going to fire somebody if you're a company, like the Gina Carano thing, right? I didn't think she should have been fired for what she did. I thought what she did was stupid and ignorant and uneducated, but she has a right to have a dumb opinion. It's not going to ruin my enjoyment of her in The Mandalorian, but clearly Disney, who's a private company, was like, yeah, we think that's bad for business. I mean, they have the right to do that. But I can at least get how that would upset you. You're basically saying, yeah, but the problem with that is that, it's bad for business because there is a political take that has, now that's weird. See, I don't know if I kind of was about to agree with you. Now I got to think about this, because on one hand, you're saying it's bad for business because there is a political view that has gotten marbled into society, and thus it's bad for business because it's been so marbled in that society says, we don't want to give you our money if you support that. But if that's the case, how do you determine the difference between a good thing that's been marbled into society, which clearly a lot of these people think it is, and not? Are you just saying, no, it's okay for things to be marbled into society, we just want it to be our thing? in which case I can understand that. But that's not cancel culture so much as it is people doing business based on the way the winds are blowing. And if the winds aren't blowing in the way you want them to blow, I can understand you being frustrated. But I mean, isn't that welcome to America? I mean, I there's a lot of shit I don't like that's happening in America, but I deal with it. I don't know. Let me look at the chat real quick. I'm sorry, fellas. Okay. Look what Kathleen Kennedy did to Disney again. Fuck you, Georgie Douglas. Take a L on Sweet Baby. I'll tell you what, you call in right now and I will absolutely take an L on Sweet Baby if you can articulate the L I need to take. Because what do you think I'm saying about Sweet Baby that deserves an L? I'm not defending him. But yeah, Kathleen Kennedy, it's like, look, you know, she's making them a lot of money. And when she stops, and maybe she has stopped, they'll fire her. What's the problem? I don't understand. You guys imbue these people with this magical power. Right? Like, it's like Kathleen Kennedy has no more power than Sweet Baby Inc. when it comes to this stuff. It's all money. It's all fucking money. Okay, I got to bring this guy in because his name literally is Dr. Hammerpants. And come on now. I'm more than happy to take a L, Darth Nugget, but you got to be... Okay, Darth Nugget says Jaffe's never taken an L in his life because anytime he's about to, he claims the alphabet doesn't exist. I don't know what that means. But I literally made an apology video and said, oh, you know what? I was wrong about BlackRock. I didn't know what you guys knew. And when you brought that to my attention... I said, oh, yeah, no, sorry about that. It's totally the follow-up video to the one that everybody links to. So fuck off. But unless you want to, you know, provide me with some evidence. But yeah, call in, Georgie. Sure. In the meantime, let's bring in Dr. Hammerpants because, you know, with that name, we got to talk to him. Dr. Hammerpants is Jaffe. What's going on?
Pleasure to be here, Jaffe. It's your boy, Dr. Hammerpants.
Hello, Dr. Hammerpants.
So, man, I was wondering if you could clarify your position on enforced diversity hiring practices within game companies.
Diverse. Okay, we're not talking about the content at this point. We're talking about hiring the individuals.
Yeah.
I mean, that's after my time. So I can, you know, why don't you define it and I'll tell you my opinion. What is it? You be specific about it versus just calling it that. And I'll give you my opinion on what you describe.
Let's say, having to hire a certain percentage of race to be there.
Okay, and you're saying there is a that's a thing, right? You have evidence that is a thing that these companies in video games have to hire a certain number of, say, black folks or Indian.
That's not what I'm saying, but that is occurring at other companies. Was that
okay?
IBM
So you're asking me, what do I think of it as an idea?
Yeah, and if you want that,
I think. Here's what I think. I think that business is business, and ultimately, you're not going to get a company that plays at the level that Naughty Dog and Sony Santa Monica and Insomniac do simply by hiring people who fit a quota. I think you're going to go with the best people in the positions that have to have the best people. That said, in whatever color they are, whatever race they are, but that said, though, do I think it's a very delicate but important activity? Yeah, I do, because I think you have to be careful when you say just hire the best people, because ultimately, yes, you should do that, and that should weigh heavily, if not the main thing, on your hiring decisions. But if you don't also begin to take into account the fact that the field is tilted towards other types of people, whether they're men or women or different races or this, that, or the other, I think it's simply shitty. And so if you say, you know what, like on, you know, we at Bartlett Jones, we had a trans person, we had some gay people, we had a conservative, we had all kinds of nationalities. We didn't have one black person ever apply for a job there, right? Not one. And so there is an opportunity cost that gets lost for people if the business doesn't self-correct. So I think you have to find a healthy and respectful balance. You, of course, have to stay in business. You have to compete. You have to hire the best, whether they're white or black or gay or trans or whatever. But you also have to take into account that you are a citizen of the industry and acknowledge that there's a lot of unfairness out there, and you can kind of help, carry water for the cause. But I don't think right now you're seeing products suffer because they hired the wrong people. I think that's a ridiculous, again, it goes back to this idea that you're imbuing these things with these powers. Like, you think Cory Barlog's going to be like, I'm going to hire people for my new game at Sony, and these aren't the best writers, but I got to get an indigenous.
That's definitely what's happening.
Give me an example.
I mean, just in general, if we were to look at writing and film,
I
think it's safe. I think it's safe.
There was a lawsuit today. There was a lawsuit today or yesterday from one of the guys that writes on Navy SEALs. I think that's the name of the show. And he said, there was a staff writing position open up, and it went to a diverse hire who didn't have as much experience as I did. Right. And so he filed a lawsuit. Now, if it turns out that company, which I think was CBS, actually did break the law, then they need to offer up restitution. Is that the right word? For that guy. But at the same time, though, I also think that if you just hire the best people, can't you, the best people always, and you don't take anything else into account, can't you understand? Good. It's not good, though. It's good.
That's how you get the best product. The best final creative output comes from a very, very small group of people in the world.
Yeah, I
Not
understand.
everyone can do it. So
but don't you understand, though, that so let me ask you this. Do you think it is fair that, let's say, let's just take black people, because I know a black video game designer programmer that tweeted something recently about, it's not that black people aren't capable of making games, it's that we've had a lot less opportunity. And this is the guy who made Jungle Strike on the Sega. This guy's been around. Okay. So do you think it's fair that our culture in America is set up in a way that, let's just say, black men have less opportunity growing up to engage with technology of video games? Is that fair?
I don't think it's necessarily unfair, but it's not necessarily fair either.
Okay. So I'm going to go with the fact that
I don't know what you mean by fair.
Meaning that, do you think we as a society have a responsibility to take into account that there are people, for reasons outside of their own, aren't given the opportunities that other people are?
I don't think it's relevant when the position is determined by creative talent.
No, I know. I'm not done. I know, I'm not done. I'm saying, if it's unfair, but you say that, if you agree that it's unfair, but you say you still don't want your products being hurt by it, then why not say, okay, then we're going to raise the price of our products by $2, and those $2 are going to go towards programs that will seed out the opportunity to learn and engage with this technology in places that are not as privileged financially. Would that be okay? Because then your game's not getting hurt, but you're paying a little bit more money, not much, and you're making the playing field more fair over time. Would you be okay with that?
Like a philanthropy type action from a video game company to fund
you would only experience
game dev or something.
Yeah, you would experience it as a $2 hike in the price, but ultimately it would be going towards, not have to be inner city, but it could be going towards people that have been identified, or groups that have been identified, or regions of the world or the country. It could be the Appalachians, doesn't matter what color your skin is, that haven't historically been able to sort of get into this space.
I think social welfare programs like that should come from the government and not the game companies themselves. So I would think it's unfair to charge customers extra money for doing that, or not necessarily unfair, just unnecessary and just kind of out of pocket.
Okay. Well, I mean, maybe we just disagree with that. I think the business is never going to do it unless they're kind of forced to do it by tax incentives or whatnot. The government doesn't do it very well. And I don't particularly like the fact that when we actually say we want the best of the people making our shit, but we come from a culture where we can't really determine that yet because a lot of people haven't been given the same opportunities. One would argue that, are those really the best people? Or are those the best people that have been given the opportunities? And shouldn't we actually work harder? So I'm just saying I don't think it's black and white. I understand the frustration, but I don't think it's a black and white situation. I really don't. I think you can do good business, and you can be practical and pragmatic, and you can also be acknowledging and making changes that make the world a little bit better, is what I would say.
That's fine, but that doesn't really necessarily have to deal with the hiring the best of the best being not a good idea.
It has everything to do with it, because I'm basically telling you, here's a possible solution.
But they're not. But they would be there if they were the best of the best already, and that's my point, because you're already hiring based off merit.
I know, but do you agree, or will you concede the point that hiring the best of the best are people who have had more opportunity than people who haven't, correct?
By opportunity,
if you grew up,
it depends. I mean,
you didn't have any money for your public school, and so you barely ever touched a fucking computer.
Sure, if like you don't own a personal computer, and Bill Gates had a computer, he has an advantage.
Right. So would you agree then that if we really want the best people doing this kind of work, then if that's our real goal, then won't video games be better in the next generation because we have made an effort to find even better people? And maybe we won't. Maybe we just happen to already have them. But wouldn't it be great to cast the net of possible video game creators wider? Not now, in the sense that don't do a forced diversity hire, but still go, hey, if we really care about quality, let's put some programs in place to make sure we're getting more people coming in for these jobs.
I mean, yeah, it's a rational belief. That would apply to literally every single instrument somebody's trying to learn, writing, pretty much any creative field. And if you do this, even if kids with opportunities growing up, even if you do it for them as well, you will get more best of the best.
So shouldn't we want that?
Sure. Why is that bad?
It's not. That's what I'm saying. So maybe it's a little bit of both. I can totally see, I want the best people making the products, but I can also see the fact that the playing field is unfair. And we could actually, if you want to be totally mercenary about it, and it's still about the best products, which is fine, I suppose. If there's no morality driven into it, it's just about the best products, then we can also make that better too. Why can't we have both? Why don't
we? I don't see how that has to do with hiring the person.
It has
at the present time for the game being made today.
It doesn't have anything to do with the game.
Because you're talking about maybe like a 10 to 15 year plan to develop a skill to become a sound designer.
Yes, we're
talking about games today are starting to suck ass.
It's got nothing to do, by the way, because the games today that are starting to suck ass, name one, and I'll tell you what it has to do with.
Okay, let's talk about Gears of War fell off.
Okay, Gears of War did not fall
Halo
off. Well,
less popular?
Which one are we focusing on?
Either one of those.
Let's take Gears of War. Yep.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So Gears of War 5 is not as good as Gears of War 1 and 2 because there's a woman in it. It's not as good as 1 and 2 because they opened up the environment a lot bigger. And I just replayed Gears of War 1 a couple of months ago because I had Cliff on the show to talk specifically about it. Played through the whole thing again. That game in the second game is so streamlined. It is like a fucking movie trailer. It's just boom, 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 boom. And the areas that you get to explore, that freedom is really fucking narrow. You go to Gears 5 and suddenly you're driving around this fucking ice ship sailboat thing. And you can go to a couple of different places. Then you can go into the fucking town and you can go around and talk to a bunch of other people. And it's like, what the fuck is this? Yeah.
It's because the people making it aren't the best.
Well, okay,
the best were gone, and that's what you get is a shittier product.
Okay, but
it's guaranteed to happen, and it's going to continue happening, especially with Microsoft.
Okay, well,
studio acquisitions.
But don't you agree though that there's two different things at play here? There's we're not hiring the best people because of diversity, and we simply don't have the best people on staff. I agree with you that somebody at that company should have looked at the DNA of Gears of War and said, guys, what you're making might work, but pick a side. If you're going to go open world and all that shit, then let's build for that. If you're going to go Gears of War, then let's build for that. But you're trying to split the difference. No one said that, or whoever said it didn't have the power to make any change. Fine. But what evidence do you have that that's because of diverse hire? It could have been Rob Ferguson who said that. Could have been some fucking white dude who said that. What does that have to do with diversity?
I guess good with Gears, I'm talking about trying to appeal to a wider demographics using diversity inclusion for the characters. So I don't mean that.
The game isn't good because the main character is a woman. It's got nothing to do with all that shit that I just said that's valid and specific and concretized.
You got to think about what is the franchise before versus now. It's been feminized. Would you agree?
There is a woman.
Don't say woman, but it's just in general feminine.
I don't know what define that because I didn't finish it. I played up to the point that she got into the town and she drove around on the ice boat. I played for about 5 hours and I got bored of it. So talk to me about what's feminized about it, other than it stars a woman.
Okay, so if we take it Gears 1 through 3, would you say that's a hyper masculine?
Yeah, it's a lot of male energy, and yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So now compare that to 5 or 4. Do you see how that's been toned down?
I do see how that's been toned down. Yes.
So in order to turn that down, that means it's becoming more feminine.
Okay, sure. Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
I understand that point. Yes.
And so they're doing this to try to appeal more mainstream.
Okay. Is that
to sell more games to women?
Great. Isn't that what their job is? Their business, right? If they didn't work. It was a bad decision the way they did it. They should have said, look, this ain't Gears. You don't make it Gears.
It didn't work, though. That's the key thing is it didn't work.
Right. But did it not work?
Halo. Did they do the same to Halo? They feminized Halo more. They try to create more emotional connection between Master Chief.
I will give you Gears. I will not give you Halo. Halo, it's ridiculous. No. I played through the entire campaign of Infinite. I played a bunch of fucking multiplayer, which was great. Still is great. But I'm sorry, Halo was never some bastion of masculinity.
It's not the bastion. It doesn't have to be the bastion of masculinity. It's just swinging towards femininity.
I don't know. Okay, let's stick with Gears because I think it's very clear you're right on Gears. Sure. Gears, Gears was feminized more. And let's say for a moment that that it was done with the goal in mind of selling more copies. I think sounds great.
Sure.
So your problem then isn't that it was feminized, right? It was that it just wasn't very good. Or is your problem that even if it would have been pretty much the same fucking game, that 1 and 2 were, if it was a woman, it would. I mean, what are you complaining mostly about? Because don't you want them to sell more copies?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I want them to make the best game they can make. I want them to make a game that's on par with the franchise that was established and not sort of be hijacked and then changed trying to appeal to a new demographic that is going to, in doing so, requires the franchise to change directions entirely and to become more mainstream.
Okay, so you're okay. So if the woman in Gears 4 and 5, or let's just say 5, if the woman in 5 had been more like Vasquez or Ripley in the Aliens film, the masculinity would still be there. The aggressivity would still be there. It's just the fact that that's the issue with you, right? It's got nothing to do with her having a vagina.
For the most part, because it's not just the character, it's the sound design has been toned down. The colors are bright and appealing versus the gray darkness as before. It's not just the main character.
Okay.
It's not just a story. It's everything about it is being restructured to become something new.
Okay. So your issue, just so I'm clear, your issue is not that you don't necessarily like or not like it. It's that that's not Gears to you.
Right. It's sort of like a downgrade to the franchise and for what it stood for. It's like, consider this.
Okay,
I think you can make a lot of.
I would agree that the essence of what defined Gears, the first couple of Gears, which was this kind of hyper masculinity, was lacking in the new ones, and it probably hurt their sales for it. But what I don't have evidence of is that because there was a group of diversity cheerleaders on the sidelines saying you do this, and none of those people on the team wanted to, or was it like you said, because, you know, surprise, surprise, women play games and not just Candy Crush. And they're like, shit, we could maybe, you know, it was ill-advised, but certainly they could kind of go, they could be forgiven for wanting to expand the audience, especially given the budgets are going up, right?
I mean, it is what it is.
So what
my argument is that it's worse.
Yeah, but why is it worse? Because they were trying to sell more copies?
Well, yeah, it's like, consider this, like, we can compare a lot of situations, I think, in video games with movies or music.
Sure. Right.
So a band creates these great prolific albums.
Okay.
And then they get signed by the major label. They get accused of selling out because they get a major producer that popifies their record.
Yeah.
It might sell more copies, but that ain't the same band anymore.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. I get and appreciate you being annoyed that the thing you once loved is no longer there. But like I said earlier to a caller, that's life. I mean, that might suck. You don't have your Gears anymore, but guess what? There's somebody out there going, I want my fucking Gears. I'm going to make that fucking thing. And then they'll take up the mantle. I mean, that's just how art works, right? I mean, that's, you know, but that's not a diversity issue, right? That's just an issue with, you know, people trying to make a more broad product. And it's happening all in games, not just because, or if at all because of the diversity, but a lot of it is the budgets go up, and there's a bigger audience now. But if you remember, I mean, when I started in games, we were like excited if the fantasy was, can we sell 100,000 copies? That was like, no fucking way. And now you would be put out on the street if your game only sold that, right? So the idea that, you know, the audience has grown with every generation, not in terms of the number of total players, but the number of the demographic has widened in terms of the types of players. And of course, it makes sense that companies would want to go after as many of those people as they can. I don't think that's diversity so much as just business, right? But yes, Matthew Longo in the chat says, then you might lose your old audience. Yes, it's a risk, 100%. 100%. Lone Star says that's a direct result of diversity. How? You just saying that doesn't make it so. The game,
but
anyway.
The thing is, Jaffe,
you get the last word.
The mainstream, the mainstream is political correctness, and political correctness is linked to the wokeness. So when you say you have to make a game that's trying to appeal mainstream, you can't just include a black character and be like, okay, we did our forced diversity inclusion. The black character has to be structured in a particular way.
Yeah, so it's bad writing, right?
But here's the thing: is you're separating the bad writing from wokeness when the bad writing is part of wokeness by definition, and you're trying to separate it like it's two different entities.
It is,
but they're absolutely linked. No way.
Let me tell you how. Okay, so if you came, let's say I was a great movie writer, and you came to me, like in the case of, I did this in my video, but like in the case of Beverly Hills Cop. Beverly Hills Cop first had Sylvester Stallone in the movie. That's who it was going to be with. And he came on and he wrote some of it, and they said, no, this isn't working. They got rid of him. They brought Eddie Murphy on. Well, it wasn't necessarily, as far as we know, it might have been, but let's assume it wasn't. It wasn't forced diversity. They said, this guy's great. Let's hire this guy. Well, the script had to be adjusted and written and changed, and it had to be well written in order to make that feel organic. So I agree with you that if you just go in and say this character, their race is going to be part of the character beyond just, we don't even mention it. Why does it matter to mention it? Then yes, that has got to be written in a way that is organic and doesn't feel like it's pandering.
I get what you're saying,
But that's different. But that doesn't mean the order to put the black dude or the gay dude or the trans dude in the game isn't pandering. Pandering happens all the time. You're always getting notes from on high. It's about how well you can integrate them. I would argue that lately they haven't been very good. Maybe that's not, like I said in my video, maybe that has more to do with the budgets being so high. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. Real writers are like, Jesus fucking Christ, does everybody have to chime in on this? I know how to do this, but you got to have marketing behind it.
Eddie Murphy was not a forced diversity character to be inserted. He got there because, he was at the height of his game. He just came out with like Delirious.
At the height
he was on SNL. He came out with Delirious, which is considered one of the best stand-ups ever created.
I'm not knocking the man's
He
talent.
had a cop movie. He had a cop movie before that. He's a natural fit. He got there because of merit and skill, and you're trying to make him sound like you keep saying, hold on, but you're saying present the evidence. Present the evidence that it was a forced diversity hire.
I didn't say he was a forced diversity hire. I said he could have been. It doesn't matter. What matters is the writers and the directors and the creatives were faced with a scenario where, oh shit, somebody's come and tumped over the game board. Now we're left to pick up the pieces and make it work. Whether that's because it was forced diversity or they happened to get the biggest comedy star on the planet at the time, which it wasn't him, by the way, but he was on the way, or it's because, the star and the co-star were romantically linked and then they broke up and the actor wouldn't work with her anymore. Whatever it is, the job of a good team is to take what they're given and go, we have to make this work, fellas. That's all I'm saying is that I will side with you. Same thing with Gears of War when it comes to being able to say, if you fuck up the job, that's the most important thing. But to automatically throw it at the feet of the diversity is not the problem. The quality of the writer is the problem.
Okay. But it's not that I'm saying diversity is the problem. I'm saying forced diversity.
I don't think there's any difference. I really don't. I think any note that comes from on high is forced. And it's up to the creative. Because it's not organic to the process until the writers take it and make it organic to the process.
And I'm not going to make the argument that, because I know what you're saying about people pissed off about what I'm talking about, and that there has always been an external force that's influencing the creativity.
Yes, that's all I'm saying.
And I agree with what you're saying, and that's always existed, and I never pretended it didn't exist. But we still
it might exist. Go ahead.
We still, under those kind of systems, we were getting movies like Terminator 1 and 2 for every 500 shitty Terminator new type movies get made now. Yeah. We still got greatness. There was still teams of greatness being assembled.
Diversity. That has to do with budget. But it didn't cost the kind of money every time you step up to the plate today. If you swing and miss, your company's over.
I don't see how you don't see how enforced diversity is wokeness, and wokeness applies political correctness and what's socially acceptable to writing.
I don't think you're
inherently
wrong.
There. If you're going to enforce diversity, then that means you're going to enforce writing the diverse characters a certain way in your writing. You can't enforce diversity and be like, yo, we're going to make this group of sexual orientation or race look bad. You're not going to do that.
So you're telling me if you are a writer on a movie and they come to you and say, for whatever reason, I want the co-star of the movie to be a character who is a trans character. And you're saying it doesn't matter why. Who cares? It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. None of the notes ever matter. Why? Because the executive who made that decision ended up fucking a prostitute last night, and then he woke up in the morning and realized he had fucked a trans prostitute, and now he's all embarrassed and he wants to change the culture so he doesn't get so shamed by it. Who the fuck knows?
Okay. I'm following you. Keep going.
Right. There's a gajillion reasons why these people, send notes down from on high. The point is they send them. And ultimately, if you can't do well with those notes, you're probably not very good at your fucking job. That's all I'm saying. So let's complain about that. Let's not complain about, because at that point, just say you didn't have a problem with some of the notes that were coming from movies in the 80s and 90s. And trust me, there were a lot of them. But you do have a problem with the notes now because you don't like the diversity message. And that's fine, but just own that.
But here's the thing. What the old way that you're describing, that's always existed and still does, that's like creativity getting shot in the leg with a BB gun. If you look at it now with the diversity and forced diversity and woke politics within games writing, that's like getting shot in the balls with a bazooka. It's fucked. Nothing good gets made from it because you're enforced. And even if you agree something can be good made for it, you have to agree that it's creating much, much, much greater restrictions on writing.
I don't have to agree with that. I would agree that budget is making a lot more problems on creative freedom, because I think you can look at shows that have been greenlit in sort of the golden age of streaming that's ending, that didn't cost very much, that had lots of different representation, but they didn't cost that much and they didn't have so many cooks in the kitchen. Here's what I would say. I would say that if you're asking me to say that a percentage of the writing is bad simply because of the notes themselves coming from a desire to be reflective of a diverse society, whether that exists or not, then you have to give me the fact that the majority of the writing is bad, though, because of the fear that comes with the budget and all of the hands and cooks in the kitchen that comes with these budgets being so huge that people cannot afford to make a mistake. Because one is clear, the other is a little gray, and you got to kind of squint and look at it sideways to make sure it works that way. But the budget, there's no doubt that when people are able to work and be left alone, if you've hired the right people, they'll do good stuff. That's why you got Terminator, because Cameron wouldn't put up with anybody not following the vision. But not everybody's Cameron.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, buddy.
Have a good one, man. Thanks.
Hey, keep rocking the hammer pants, baby. And let me tell you something.
I'm wearing 2 pairs right now, brother.
You're goddamn right. Let me tell you something.
Just in case there's an emergency.
Here's what I appreciate about you. I don't care that we don't clearly agree. I like the fact that we could have a conversation about it, because it doesn't matter. Ultimately, I assume we're just trying to live and get along and have a good life, and I don't have to agree with you. You have to agree with me. So
yeah, man.
I
mad respect to you as well, because a lot of people who hold your positions aren't even willing to have these kind of conversations with others.
Well, then they're idiots too. So fuck them. All right, baby.
Yep.
Talk to you later.
Have a good one, man. See you.
Yep. Let me get some of these super chats. We got Sweet DeSatis. Thank you, buddy. He says it's great that he's quoting me. He's paraphrasing me. It's great that companies are sacrificing their craft in order to sell more copies, says David. Capitalism sucks, Jaffe. It's not great. It's the way business has been done. Maybe you're young, but a lot of people live in this fantasy. And maybe I was talking to Victor Lucas on the stream earlier today when we interviewed each other about the media's responsibility of sort of presenting this image of the creative process being almost like just so roses that it's not real. A lot of people seem to really think that all these great creative movies were created in some kind of kumbaya artistic vacuum where only the vision of Kubrick, or only the vision of Cameron or Spielberg or any of these people, no one ever affected them. It was just pure, and now it's not. It's always people's crafts are being sacrificed to sell more copies. Always. I wanted to push the schedule of God of War 1 because there were 2 bosses there was one boss that was wireframed and ready at a concept level. We didn't have time to finish it. There was a level with the sandstorm that was complete. We just didn't have the tech to kind of get the time to get the frame rate where it needed to be, but we could have if Sony would have coughed up another 3, 4, 5 months of production. Okay, well, is that capitalism? Is that companies sacrificing craft to sell more copies? Yep. That's the way it works. That's the way it's always worked. Mad Max, Nerds and Other Legends says, is Mad Max Fury Road woke? Because that is a great fucking movie. Environmentalism and feminism included. I loved it. Here's a good example. I was talking to somebody about this the other night. The scene in Avengers Endgame where they have like the woman shot, where I think it's like, I don't remember. It was like Captain Marvel and Valkyrie and the lady with the staff from Black Panther. They all kind of, they have some line. It's like women power, blah, blah, blah. And I love the idea of that idea being in the movie. I love the idea of making it clear that Marvel has always been a very feminist company in terms of their products, but I thought it was handled terribly. I thought it took you out of the movie. That doesn't mean, though, that the note of like, can we get something in there that celebrates the women of Marvel is a bad note, but it was badly executed. What's the problem? Why can't we admit both? Yes, Kill Bill had a badass female protagonist. Don't all of his movies, not all, Once Upon a Time in America, kind of, sort of. But cringe or pandering, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't good. False dichotomy. I love when people go to high school and they learn debate terms and they like to use them. Like, just because you've called something that your teacher told you was a debate term doesn't mean that it's accurate. Not having equipment for tech and having your art changed are two different things. No, it's not. If you're basically, when I said, it's the same thing. It's basically saying money. You were accusing me, sweet sadist, of going, it's great companies are sacrificing craft in order to sell more copies. And I'm saying that always happens. That's not a new phenomenon. No, I don't think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood had a female protagonist. No, I don't. I mean, there were women in there, but I don't think there was I think it was Brad Pitt and what's his face? God damn it. You know the guy. The guy, Don't Go, Jack. It's So Cold, Jack. That guy. What's his name? DiCaprio. Fellas, that's been a fun chat. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm tired. We had 2 big streams today, you guys. They robbed them on. Listen, I want to tell you something. We have a show. We do a show here often. We have podcasts. Just subscribe to the channel. Consider a membership. We have Patreon. We have podcast. All the same shit. You know what I'm talking about. But in the meantime, though, seriously, thank you guys for the calls. Thanks for the discussion. We don't have to disagree or agree to be pals, but I liked having you here. I like talking to you guys. All right, fellas, be well, be safe. And RPG, thank you for modding this. Yeah, Rob shows up at the ending. I was here the whole time. Okay. All right. Be well, everybody. I'll see you soon. Bye, all.